Chapter 64. In a stone room, Qin Feiyong sat cross-legged on a praying mat. 3 meters in front of him there was a stone pillar. At the top of the stone pillar, there was a palm-sized transparent crystal. Feng Cheng and the old man in black stood beside the stone pillar. Feng Cheng asked, Zhang Haoyan, do you know what this crystal is? Qin Feiyong carefully recalled and asked, is it a meditation stone? Yes. Feng Cheng nodded and said, since you know about the meditation stone, then I won't talk nonsense. Calm down and slowly condense your mental power. Old Mo, let's go out and protect him. Don't let those brats come in and cause trouble. The two of them walked out of the meditation room one after the other and closed the stone door. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at the meditation stone on the stone pillar. He tried to search the memories in the depths of his soul. Although he had never been involved in alchemy before, he still knew the basics. Mental power was divided into 2 forms. The first was formless. It was the same as Qin Feiyong's current mental power, invisible and untouchable. The second was tangible. Tangible spiritual power was a substance similar to air currents. It could be seen and touched. But to turn the formless mental power into tangible form, it required the meditation stone. The method of using the meditation stone depended on the person. But in advance he needed to get rid of all distracting thoughts. His mind was as still as water, and enter the state of one with the stone. If he had any distracting thoughts, he wouldn't be able to succeed. Phew! After letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyong held his breath and slowly dispersed the distracting thoughts in his mind. Outside the meditation room, there were dozens of people gathered. They were all disciples of the Pill Hall. Elders, can you tell us what level of mental power Zhang Haoyan has? Is it about the same as senior brother Chang'e? I think he's even stronger than senior brother Chang'e. Because when senior brother Chang'e condensed his mental power, the 2 elders didn't protect him personally. This kind of treatment is unprecedented in the past, and will never be replicated in the future. If that's the case, doesn't Zhang Haoyan have level 7 mental power? A group of youths gathered around Feng Cheng and his companion, chattering nonstop. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. Ling Yan was also in the crowd. Feng Cheng laughed and scolded, you stinking brats, don't try to play tricks here. This old man will definitely not reveal a single word to you. A trace of disappointment crept into everyone's eyes. Ling Yan frowned. He hid in the crowd and fanned the flames, saying, Elder Feng, Zhang Haoyan and we will be brothers in the future. Is there a need to hide like this? That's right. Elder Feng, aren't you being a little too biased? I still don't believe that Zhang Haoyan's spiritual power can reach the 8th level. Everyone was dissatisfied. The old man in black frowned and shouted, do you all have nothing to do? Get the hell out of here. The group of disciples shut their mouths, and the scene instantly quieted down. Feng Cheng patted the black-clothed old man's shoulder and said with a smile, hey old Mo, don't be so serious. You'll scare them. The old man in black said angrily, you're still talking about me? If it weren't for you always spoiling them, would they dare to be so mischievous here? I don't agree with that. They're still children now. We should give them enough love and care to let them feel at home in the Pill Hall. We can't keep a straight face and scold them all day. Forget it. You're just a stubborn old man. You won't understand even if I tell you. After Feng Cheng finished speaking, he waved his hand and took out a table from his Chenkuan pouch. He placed it on the ground, then looked at the group of disciples and chuckled. Same old rules. This old man will be the banker. You all place your bets. Let's bet on how many days Zhang Haoyan can condense his spiritual power. 1 day 1 to 10. 2 days 1 to 5. 3 days 1 to 2. At this moment he was just like a gambler. The group of disciples beamed with joy and surrounded Feng Cheng. Feng Cheng, that's enough. Elder Mo shouted. His face was dark and his veins were popping out. Those disciples' expressions stiffened. They wanted to place their bets but they didn't dare to. Feng Cheng turned his head and looked at Elder Mo. He frowned and said, if you don't like it you don't have to watch. No one is forcing you, okay? You're really disrespectful. If you continue like this, their future will be ruined by your hands sooner or later. Elder Mo strode to the other side. He was so angry that his body was trembling. As an elder of the Pill Hall, He didn't act like an elder at all. What kind of scandal was this? This was simply humiliating the pill hall. Come, don't bother about him. Let's continue. Fengcheng waved his hand at those disciples. Those disciples looked at each other. In the end, they couldn't resist the temptation and surrounded Fengcheng to place their bets. On this side there was laughter and joy. On the other side, Elder Emo was sulking alone. Jiang Haoyan, you must condense your spiritual power within a day. He muttered to himself. There was another rule in this bet. That was, if the person who was bet on could condense his spiritual power in advance, then everyone would lose. And all the bets would be placed on the person who was bet on. In other words, if Qin Feiyong could condense his spiritual power within a day, then everyone's bets would go into his pocket. As for the banker Fengcheng, he wouldn't get a single cent. However, condensing his spiritual power within a day was something that had never happened before in the pill hall of Black Bear City. Time passed quickly. An hour later, along with the boom, the stone door slowly opened. Qin Feiyong strode out. Fengcheng turned around and asked curiously, "Why did you come out?" "Because you guys are too noisy." Before Qin Feiyong could speak, Elder Emo snorted coldly. He turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong. He smiled and said, "I'll ask them to scram immediately. You continue to condense your spiritual power." Qin Feiyong looked at the two of them suspiciously. He then looked at Ling Yan and the others. Suddenly he understood. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your concern, Elder Emo. But there's no need." Elder Emo frowned and said, "Why not? Have you given up?" Qin Feiyong was startled. His expression was a little strange. If this person knew that the person he was concerned about was the madman who robbed the herb field, how would he react? He would probably kill him on the spot. So now his real identity must not be exposed. After collecting himself, Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and said, "Elder, I'm not giving up. It's because I've already condensed my spiritual power." "Oh, so that's how it is." Elder Emo nodded. He turned around and was about to leave. However, he suddenly turned around and stared at Qin Feiyong. He said, "What did you just say? Say it again immediately." Fengcheng, Ling Yan and the others were the same as Elder Emo. First they didn't pay much attention to it. However, the next moment, they all stared at Qin Feiyong in shock. "Could it be that I accidentally created a new record?" Qin Feiyong mumbled. He didn't realize how shocking it was to condense his spiritual power in an hour. Cough cough. Chapter 65. Whoosh! Under everyone's gaze, a white beam of light suddenly flew out from Qin Feiyong's head and gathered in his palm. This was mental energy with a form. Like a strand of hair, it had a hazy luster and emitted an obscure aura. It's really mental energy. Quick, calculate how long did he take? Fengcheng and the others were dumbfounded and filled with disbelief. Half an hour. Elder Emo swallowed his water and said with difficulty. As soon as he said that, this place instantly exploded into an uproar. How is it possible to condense mental energy in half an hour? Back then, even senior brother Chengyi took a full day and a half. Jiang Haoyan, tell us honestly, have you already condensed mental energy before? Someone questioned, unable to accept this fact. One of them was Ling Yan. What nonsense are you all talking about? You can't deny others just because you can't do it. Fengcheng shouted. His face was unprecedentedly serious. What's wrong? Why are you all standing here? At this moment, Luo Xiong's voice came from afar. He strode over, looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Why aren't you condensing mental energy?" But as soon as he finished speaking, he noticed the mental energy floating in Qin Feiyong's palm. His body suddenly stiffened. You condensed mental energy so quickly? He was stunned for a long time before regaining his senses. He smiled and said, "Your matter has been settled. You can rest assured and stay in Black Bear City. No one will dare to do anything to you." Qin Feiyong was overjoyed. He hurriedly withdrew his mental energy back into his sea of consciousness and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Hall Master." Luo Xiong looked at the disciples behind him and whispered into Qin Feiyong's ears, "Also, don't tell anyone about your mental energy level. Because a level 9 mental energy will make people jealous." "I understand." Qin Feiyong nodded. Luo Xiong smiled and turned to look at the disciples. He smiled and said, "Who will bring Zhang Haotian to familiarize himself with the environment of the pill hall?" "Me." Ling Yan stood out immediately. Luo Xiong's eyes flashed slightly as he nodded. "All right, take Zhang Haotian for a stroll and take him to get his identity token." "Yes." Ling Yan bowed and replied. Luo Xiong waved his hand and said, "All right, everyone disperse." The group of disciples dispersed in a hubbub and quickly spread the news. "Zhang Haotian, wait a moment." Just as Qin Feiyong was about to leave, Elder Emo called out to him. Qin Feiyong turned around and looked at him in confusion. However, Elder Emo looked at Fengchang and said with a frown, "Aren't you going to hand over those bets? Are you trying to pocket them?" "Bet?" Qin Feiyong was taken aback. Ling Yan explained in a low voice. At this time, Qin Feiyong realized that he had unexpectedly obtained an unexpected fortune. Of course, he wouldn't hold back either. After obtaining all the bets, Qin Feiyong turned around and left. However, just as he turned around, Luo Xiong suddenly said, "Zhang Haotian, I have news that I think you will be very interested in. Because of the merit of reporting you, Ling Yunfei joined the martial arts hall under the recommendation of the city lord." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyong's eyes. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, hall master, for telling me." At the same time, Ling clan's meeting hall. The Ling clan head sat on the main seat with a gloomy face. Beside him, Ling Yunfei and Ling Shang, the two young men and woman, stood side by side with their heads lowered and didn't speak. However, it could be seen that Ling Yunfei was very agitated now. He clenched his fists tightly, and his body was faintly trembling. Ling Shang and the other two looked at Ling Yunfei, but their eyes were filled with cold light. "Yunfei." The Ling clan head suddenly spoke with a faint smile on his face. Ling Yunfei hurriedly said, "Yes, sir. Although our Ling clan lost a lot of gold coins this time, fortunately, the city lord recommended you to join the martial arts hall." The Ling clan head laughed. Ling Yunfei bowed and said, "Second uncle, don't worry. Yunfei will work hard." The Ling clan head nodded and laughed. "Second uncle also believes that you will work hard. However, not everyone's hard work will yield results. Yunfei, second uncle wants to discuss with you." "Second uncle, please speak." A strong sense of uneasiness rose in Ling Yunfei's heart. "Your talent is not outstanding. Even if you join the martial arts hall, you won't have any achievements in the future. You won't be able to bring much benefit to the Ling clan. Second uncle wants you to give this opportunity to Ling Shang." The Ling clan head said. "What?" Ling Yunfei's body trembled, and his face instantly turned pale. "Thank you, father." Ling Shang was overjoyed. When he looked at Ling Yunfei again, there was no more coldness in his eyes. There was only pride. The other two were a little envious, but more than that, they were gloating over Ling Feiyong's misfortune. The Ling clan head laughed and said, "Yunfei, second uncle knows that you must be feeling very uncomfortable right now. However, don't worry. As long as you agree, second uncle promises that he will treat you well in the future." "Treat?" Ling Yunfei muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with grief. He thought of Qin Feiyong's words. "The people you care about will soon beat you into the bottomless abyss again." Originally, he thought that everything he did would change everyone's view of him. However, the result was not so. Because of his kindness, these people in front of him became even worse. "No, I don't want to. This is an opportunity that I won with my own hard work. Why should I give it to Ling Shang? Second uncle, this is not fair." He couldn't help but roar. This was the first time he complained about injustice for himself. However, what he got in return was merciless mockery. "Hard work. Can you not make it sound so nice? Didn't you betray your friends in exchange for this opportunity? Go out and take a look. Now in Black Bear City, who doesn't despise you behind your back? A treacherous person like you, even if you die, no one will sympathize with you." Ling Shang and the other two sneered. Every word was like a sharp blade, ruthlessly stabbing into Ling Yunfei's heart. The smile on the Ling clan head's face turned into a sneer. His eyes were filled with disdain, as if he was looking at a clown. Ling Yunfei glanced at the four of them. His hands clenched tightly, and he said word by word, "Second uncle, no matter what others think of me, I will not give this opportunity to Ling Shang. You're courting death. Ling Shang was instantly filled with hostility. He slapped Ling Yunfei's face and said disdainfully, if it weren't for the fact that you and I are related by blood, I would have killed you long ago. Ling Yunfei covered his burning face and gloomily stared at Ling Shang. You dare to glare at me? I'll cripple you today. Ling Shang kicked again, and Ling Yunfei was sent flying on the spot. With a bang he rolled on the ground. The Ling clan head shouted, that's enough. He's your cousin after all. Cousin? Is he worthy? Ling Shang sneered and strode forward. He stomped on Ling Yunfei's face with all his strength. Ling Yunfei was in so much pain that his entire body convulsed, and his facial features began to distort. Brother Shang, don't be like this. You don't have to be so angry with this kind of trash. The two young men and women hurriedly ran forward, pulling and persuading him. Let go. Ling Shang shouted. The two of them looked at each other, helplessly let go, and took a few steps back. Ling Shang retracted his foot and looked down at Ling Yunfei. With a murderous aura he said, you bastard, let me tell you, don't be so shameless. Otherwise, next year today will be your death anniversary. Ling Yunfei clenched his fists. His fingernails had already sunk into his palms, and fresh blood was flowing out. However, it was as if he didn't feel pain. In the depths of his eyes, there was still murderous intent surging. But in the end, these murderous intents were hidden by him. He crawled up with difficulty and said, I entered the martial arts hall because of the city lord's recommendation. If I give it to Ling Shang now, I'm afraid the city lord will blame me and the Ling clan. He was making a final effort to fight for a last chance for himself. You don't have to worry about this. I will personally look for the city lord to explain this matter. Now you can get lost. In addition, if I hear any rumors outside, I don't need to say anything. You should be very clear about the consequences. The Ling clan head said indifferently. Ling Yunfei's body and mind trembled as he looked at the four people in front of him. Was he still a member of the Ling clan? Were these people still his family? He turned around and walked out step by step, his heart bleeding. Why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? He muttered to himself, his face filled with helplessness and despair. Trash. Ling Shang looked at him with disdain. He turned around and ran to the Ling clan head. He smiled and said, Father, thank you. The Ling clan head smiled and said, You are my son. Of course I will side with you. But you have to remember, after entering the martial arts hall, you have to work hard for me. Ling Shang patted his chest and said, Father, don't worry. I will definitely not disappoint you. Brother Shang, congratulations. After entering the martial arts hall, don't forget to take care of us. The two young men and women went up and flattered him with a face full of flattery. I will definitely not forget you. Tonight I will treat you to a drink. Let's not go home until we are drunk. Ling Shang laughed in high spirits. In the main hall there was laughter. Ling Yunfei squatted alone in a corner crying sadly. Pill Hall. Under Ling Yan's lead, Qin Feiyong went to all the places in the pill hall. Along the way, Ling Yan kept trying to trick Qin Feiyong, but he didn't succeed every time. After receiving the identity token, Ling Yan suggested that they go to a restaurant to have a few drinks. It was considered as a welcoming dinner for Qin Feiyong. But Qin Feiyong didn't agree. He said goodbye and went their separate ways, because he could tell that Ling Yan was up to no good. After a while, Qin Feiyong entered a hall and came to a closed door. He cupped his hands and said, Elder Feng, I have something to ask of you. Come in. Feng Cheng's voice came from inside. Qin Feiyong pushed the door and entered. He saw Feng Cheng sitting in front of the desk and writing something. Feng Cheng didn't even raise his head and said, Close the door. After Qin Feiyong closed the door, he turned around and walked to the side of the desk. He stuck his head out and looked. Body tempering pill. These three words immediately entered his line of sight. So he was writing a pill recipe. Go over there and sit for a while. Feng Cheng pointed at the tea table at the side. Chapter 66. At the same time, Ling Yan entered Changyi's alchemy room. Changyi put down the work in his hands and asked, How's the investigation going? Ling Yan shook his head and said, This Zhang Haoyan is too vigilant. No matter what I do, I can't get any information from him. Chengyi's eyes darkened. Ling Yan thought for a while and said, Senior brother Chengyi, your position in the pill hall is higher than mine. Why don't you go and invite him personally? I believe he won't refuse. Personally? Chengyi frowned. He really couldn't put down his face. Senior brother, for the sake of your future, it's okay to lower your head once in a while. Ling Yan said with a flattering smile. Bring me to him. Chengyi pondered for a while. In the end, he still decided to meet this person personally. Phew. In the room, Feng Cheng put down the brush in his hand and let out a long sigh. He smiled and said, Zhang Haoyan, come here. Qin Feiyang stood up and quickly walked to the desk. There were 4 bamboo slips on the desk. Feng Hua pushed the 4 bamboo slips in front of Qin Feiyang and explained, These 4 pill recipes are the healing pill, bone replenishing pill, body tempering pill, and qi gathering pill. Qin Feiyang grabbed them one by one and looked at them carefully. Every kind of pill required several kinds of medicinal herbs to be refined. I've already written down the refining method, so I won't say much. I'll just say one thing. During the entire process of refining the pill, you must remember not to be distracted or impatient. Furthermore, you must not change the steps of the refinement without permission. Otherwise, all the medicinal ingredients will be wasted. There's one more thing, and it's the most important thing. Everyone's mental strength is limited. Even if you have 9th level mental strength, it's the same. When you refine pills in the future, if your mental strength is about to be used up, you'd rather give up than continue, because the consequences are very serious. It will hurt your soul. Feng Cheng warned. Hurt the soul. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He nodded and said, I'll remember. Feng Cheng asked, Is there anything else you don't understand? Yes, where are the herbs? Qin Feiyang asked. Feng Cheng smiled and said, You'll have to find the herbs yourself. What? Qin Feiyang was startled. He frowned and said, Could it be that the pill hall didn't provide the ingredients? Feng Cheng joked, When you find a wife in the future, does the pill hall have to provide you with one too? Do you need the pill hall's help when you enter the bridal chamber? A row of black lines immediately appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead. He rolled his eyes and laughed mischievously. Elder, do you have a granddaughter? Feng Cheng nodded. Yes, why? Qin Feiyang pretended to think deeply and said, Why don't you let your granddaughter marry me? After all, my talent is not low and my appearance is not bad. Your granddaughter will not lose out if she marries me. Feng Cheng was stunned. Brat, I think you're looking for a beating. Then he flew into a rage, grabbed the inkstone on the table, and threw it at Qin Feiyang. Elder, think about it carefully. Your granddaughter will not lose out if she marries me. Qin Feiyang tilted his head and dodged the flying inkstone. He grabbed the 4 bamboo slips, left behind a sentence, and quickly ran away. Brat, run if you dare. Feng Cheng stood up and shouted angrily, I'll be a fool if I don't run. Qin Feiyang ran out of the room without looking back. He pulled the door and closed it with a bang. Brat, if I have the chance, I'll teach you a lesson, but I can really think about it. I can play matchmaker for them. Feng Cheng returned to his seat and lowered his head to think. If Qin Feiyang heard this, he would definitely bang his head against the wall. Walking out of the main hall, Qin Feiyang saw Ling Yan and Chengyi. Zhang Haoyan, come. Let me introduce you. This is senior brother Chengyi. He's the only level 6 alchemist in our Black Bear City Pill Hall. Ling Yan acted as if he was meeting an old friend. He immediately went up and pulled Qin Feiyang in front of Chengyi and introduced him. Level 6 mental power. Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart. He glanced at the two of them, and his heart suddenly brightened. He cupped his hands and smiled. I've heard a lot about you, senior brother. I hope you can take care of me in the future. Chengyi smiled. We're all disciples of the Pill Hall. You don't have to be so polite. Another person who hides a knife in his smile. Qin Feiyang thought to himself. He could tell this person's character with just a glance. He asked, I wonder if senior brother is here for me? Or for elder Feng? Ling Yan smiled. Zhang Haoyan, senior brother Chengyi is here for you. When he heard that you came to the Pill Hall, he immediately rushed over and wanted to treat you to a few drinks. I'm afraid it's not as simple as just drinking. Qin Feiyong sneered and nodded. Senior brother is so kind to invite me. How would I dare to reject? Please. Changyi smiled even more brightly. This person didn't accept Ling Yan's invitation before. However, he accepted Ling Yan's invitation without hesitation. This meant that his position in the pill hall was indeed different. Under the influence of his vanity, he felt that he had gained a lot of face. After the three of them left the pill hall, they chatted and laughed all the way until they entered a restaurant. Changyi didn't only have a high position in the pill hall. He also had a certain amount of prestige in the entire Black Bear City. When they entered the restaurant, the waiter welcomed them warmly. However, Qin Feiyong wasn't welcomed. Along the way, he was criticized by many people. However, he turned a deaf ear to them. The fact that he didn't report it was deliberately spread by the three big families. It had already spread throughout the Black Bear City. Everyone even blamed the deaths of those people on him. If it wasn't because he was a disciple of the pill hall now, if it wasn't because he had the support of the three big leaders of the pill hall, everyone in the city wouldn't let him go. The waiter brought the three of them to the private room on the second floor. However, just when they reached the staircase, an ear-piercing shout could be heard in the hall. "Waiter, give me another bottle of wine." This voice was very familiar. It was Ling Yunfei. Qin Feiyong stopped and turned his head to look at the source of the voice. He saw Ling Yunfei sitting in a corner of the hall. He looked like he had lost his soul and was drunk. Why is he here? Ling Yan was surprised. Didn't he enter the martial arts hall under the recommendation of the city lord? Why is he here alone? Ling Yan, you're a disciple of the Ling family. Do you know what's going on? Changyi asked doubtfully. A disciple of the Ling family. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a bright light. I didn't go back today. I don't know what's going on. Ling Yan shook his head. Why aren't you serving the wine? Are you afraid that I can't afford it? Let me tell you, I have plenty of money. Ling Yunfei shouted. What's the rush? It's coming. The waiter behind the counter shouted impatiently. He picked up a bottle of wine and looked at Qin Feiyong, who was standing at the staircase. His eyes were filled with disgust. Then he walked towards Ling Yunfei unhurriedly. Changyi smiled and said, Junior brother Jiang, there's no need to sympathize with this kind of person. Let's go up. Qin Feiyong nodded. Although it's despicable that someone didn't report it, it's even more despicable that he betrayed his friends. There's no need to sympathize with this kind of scum. The waiter who led the way walked in front and said insinuatingly. His eyes were filled with disdain. What are you talking about? Do you think we don't exist? If you talk nonsense again, I'll cripple you. Ling Yan said in a deep voice. Sorry. It's a slip of the tongue. Please forgive me. The waiter's body stiffened. He hurriedly turned around and apologized. Lead the way. Ling Yan waved his hand impatiently. The waiter didn't dare to say anything else. He led the three of them into a private room and asked, What do you need? Changyi smiled and said, Good wine and dishes. Bring them all up. Okay, I'll arrange it now. Please wait a moment. The waiter smiled flatteringly and left the room. Brother Shang, come. Congratulations on entering the martial arts hall. Brother Shang, let's drink until we're drunk tonight. Okay, let's toast. Haha. A burst of laughter came from the room next door. The walls were soundproof, so it was a little blurry. However, Qin Feiyong and the other two could hear it clearly. It's Ling Sheng. When did he enter the martial arts hall? Ling Yan frowned. He stood up and said, Senior brother Changyi, I'll go next door to take a look. You guys chat first. Changyi nodded. After Ling Yan left, Changyi smiled and said, Junior brother Hao Yan, I've heard about your matter. You should be wary of Ling Yan. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was a little surprised. Was Changyi trying to play the emotional card with him? Since they were going to play, then let's play properly. He pretended to be puzzled and asked, What do you mean? Changyi whispered, You have a grudge with the Ling clan. They definitely won't let it go easily. Ling Yan is trying his best to get close to you. I'm sure he's up to no good. Qin Feiyong wanted to laugh. This person was really good at acting. If it was a brainless person, they would definitely believe Changyi's words and pour their heart out to him. However, Qin Feiyong wasn't that stupid. He nodded and smiled. Senior brother is right. I'll be careful in the future. And Changyi nodded and smiled. If you have any difficulties in the future, feel free to look for me. I won't refuse to help if I can. Qin Feiyang said gratefully. Thank you, senior brother. Changyi said, junior brother Haoyan, there's something I can't figure out. Can you tell me the truth? Is it finally starting? Qin Feiyang sneered secretly and said, senior brother can just say it. Changyi said doubtfully, 2 elders are protecting you at the same time. This has never happened in the pill hall. Your mental strength must be quite high. Of course, if you don't want to say it, I won't force you. Qin Feiyang laughed casually. Why can't I say it? To be honest, my mental strength is only at the 5th level. 5th level? Changyi was stunned. What kind of joke was this? 5th level mental strength? Was there a need for the hall master to reward him with 100,000 gold coins? 5th level mental strength, was there a need for 2 elders to protect him personally? Who are you trying to fool? Senior brother, I'm not lying to you. I really only have 5th level mental strength. As for the hall master and the others being nice to me, it's purely because I'm engaged to Elder Feng's granddaughter. Qin Feiyang's face didn't turn red. And his heart didn't skip a beat. There's such a thing? Changyi was surprised. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled bitterly. Senior brother, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I don't like his granddaughter at all. But his granddaughter keeps pestering me. I can't do anything about it. So it's just a person with connections. To think that I spent so much time scheming. What a waste of time. Changyi muttered in disdain, but at the same time he was envious. Elder Feng did have a granddaughter. Not only was she beautiful, but her talent in martial arts was also extraordinary. 2 years ago, an elder of the Martial Imperial Palace personally came to Black Bear City to bring her to Yen City. It was a blessing for any man to be fancied by such a talented girl. But this bastard was actually unwilling? He really didn't know how lucky he was. Chapter 67. Changyi's purpose of looking for Qin Feiyang was to find out the level of his spiritual energy. Now that he had achieved his goal, he lost interest in Qin Feiyang. Similarly, Qin Feiyang's trip was to dispel Changyi's doubts. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future, because he knew people like Changyi too well. He would not give up until he achieved his goal. The conversation between the two became less and less. Gradually, the atmosphere became a little awkward. Creak! The door opened. Ling Yan finally came back. She asked, how did it go? Ling Yan said. Ling Yunfei gave the opportunity to enter the martial arts hall to Ling Shang. Gave? Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed slightly as he said calmly, although I haven't known Ling Yunfei for long, I more or less have some understanding of his character. He shouldn't have done it willingly. Yes. Ling Yan nodded and did not hide anything. He told the truth. Heard. Changyi's mouth curled into a mocking smile. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, he deserves it. Don't you think so? Indeed. Qin Feiyang smiled. In fact, he had already expected this. He just did not expect it to come so quickly. Changyi suddenly patted his head and said, Ling Yan, I suddenly remembered that I have something to deal with. You stay here and drink a few more cups with junior brother Haoyan. Junior brother Haoyan, I am really sorry. Something? Ling Yan was stunned. Qin Feiyang stood up and smiled. It's okay. I also have something to do. Let's meet again if there is a chance. Both have something to do? What a coincidence. Looking at the two of them, Ling Yan was a little confused. In fact, the two did not want to waste any more time. Under Ling Yan's puzzled gaze, the two left the room. Qin Feiyang glanced at Ling Yunfei when he passed through the lobby. He saw 2 middle-aged men surrounding him. Both of them had unkind looks in their eyes. Ling Yunfei also noticed Qin Feiyang. His eyes had a hint of pleading for help. But Qin Feiyang didn't say a word. He directly walked out of the restaurant and headed for the treasure pavilion. Seeing this, Ling Yunfei felt extremely bitter in his heart. He did not blame Qin Feiyang, because he understood that he had brought this upon himself. Ling Yunfei, there is a limit to my patience. If you don't hand it over, don't blame me for being ruthless. The 2 middle-aged men said coldly. Ling Yunfei raised his head and looked at the two of them. A trace of hostility crept up between his brows as he roared. This is my last hope. Are you going to take it away from me too? You lowly bastard, what right do you have to talk about hope? How laughable. Not killing you is the greatest mercy we can show you, the two said in disdain. Ling Yunfei gloomily stared at the two of them. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll give it to you." He took out a bamboo scroll from his Qingkuan bag and slammed it on the table with a bang. At least you know what's good for you. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Before leaving, the patriarch said that if you don't hand it over, we'll kill you on the spot. The two of them sneered, grabbed the bamboo scroll and left. Kill me. Ling Yunfei's body and mind trembled as these words kept echoing in his head. Gradually, he clenched his fists. A shocking cold light emerged in his eyes. Since you're heartless, then don't blame me for being unjust. He muttered to himself, took out a few gold coins from his arms, threw them on the table, got up and quickly left the restaurant. Treasure Pavilion. VIP room. The pavilion master sat by the tea table with his head lowered, as if he was thinking about something. Next to him, Li Si stood respectfully. I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. Suddenly, the pavilion master rubbed his forehead and asked, Li Si, do you think this Zhang Haotian is an alchemist? This? Li Si pondered for a while and shook his head. This kid is too mysterious. It's hard to see through him. The pavilion master nodded. Yes, I've been in the business world for decades. What kind of people have I not seen? Only this kid is like a mystery. I can't figure him out. Dong. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Li Si asked. Pavilion Master Zhang Haotian is on the first floor. He wants to see you. A voice came from outside. The pavilion master and Li Si looked at each other. Speak of the devil. Li Si said. Bring him up immediately. Not long after, accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyang pushed the door and entered smiling. Pavilion Master, how have you been? The pavilion master said playfully, I'm very good. You don't have to worry about me. But you kid, do you know what's going on now? You actually dared to come out alone. Be careful not to be mistaken as a rat and get beaten up by a crowd. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then, are the two of you also going to call people to beat me up? The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. The pavilion master said, as a businessman, I won't do things that harm others without benefiting myself. Moreover, as far as I'm concerned, I quite admire you. Li Si smiled and said, yeah, young Master Zhang is far-sighted. Even us old guys are ashamed of ourselves. If it wasn't because you've already joined the Pill Hall, our pavilion master would definitely think of a way to let you join the precious treasure pavilion. This time it was Qin Feiyang's turn to be stunned. He shook his head and smiled. Let's not talk about small talk. This time, I'm here to buy some medicinal ingredients. There's a pen and paper over there. Make a list. The pavilion master pointed at the desk at the side. Qin Feiyang walked over and listed them one by one. He handed them over to the pavilion master. The pavilion master looked carefully and said in surprise, it's actually the medicinal ingredients for 4 kinds of pill recipes? You know the pill recipes? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The disciples of the Pill Hall basically come to the precious treasure pavilion to buy medicinal ingredients. Of course I know. But I don't know the steps and methods of refining. So, knowing these medicinal ingredients is meaningless. After the pavilion master finished speaking, he handed the list to Li Si. Li Si asked, Young Master Zhang, how many sets of medicinal ingredients do you need? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, Healing pill, bone replenishing pill, body tempering pill, 100 sets of each. As for the qi gathering pill, I'll take as many as you have. Li Si's face twitched. This was the rhythm of robbing all the medicinal ingredients for the qi gathering pill. I'll go and prepare it now. Young master, please wait for a moment. After saying that, Li Si walked out of the VIP room. The pavilion master asked curiously, Zhang Haotian, tell me honestly, are you an alchemist or not? Isn't it obvious? Qin Feiyang shrugged. Then what level of mental strength do you have? The pavilion master asked again. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said with a sneaky smile, I'll tell you if you let me buy all the medicinal ingredients for free. Get lost as far as you can. The pavilion master rolled his eyes. However, his curiosity was completely aroused by Qin Feiyang. He calculated silently in his heart. After a full 2 hours, Li Si returned to the VIP room. There were 100,000 sets of medicinal ingredients for the qi gathering pill, which was worth 50,000 gold coins. As for the medicinal ingredients for the healing pill, bone replenishing pill, and body tempering pill, they weren't valuable in the eyes of the pavilion master. He directly gave them to Qin Feiyang. After paying the bill, Qin Feiyang thanked him and left the treasure pavilion, returning to the pill hall. Zhang Haoyan wait. However, when he came to the door of the pill hall and was about to enter, Ling Yunfei's voice suddenly came from behind him. He frowned and stopped to look. He saw Ling Yunfei walking out from the darkness. Qin Feiyang said, "You better not say that you're here for me." Ling Yunfei stood in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "I'm here for you. Please give me a chance." "A chance is not a cabbage. It'll be gone if you miss it," Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Then he turned around and entered through the door. Plop! Ling Yunfei actually knelt on the ground and said, "I know that you hate me, but I'm really at my wit's end. The opportunity to enter the martial arts hall and the high-grade martial technique were all taken away by them. I have nothing now. I only have a dozen gold coins. Please help me, okay? I don't hate you. I just hate you," Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. "Let alone you, even I hate myself now. Why am I so naive? But I can't accept it. What right do they have to take away my things just because they want to? I want revenge. I want them to regret it." Ling Yunfei clenched his fists. His face was distorted, and his whole body was filled with hostility. He looked extremely ferocious. Qin Feiyang stopped and frowned. "You can go to Yen City or Xingyue City. With your talent, it's not difficult for you to enter the Martial Imperial Hall. Why do you have to beg me?" Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, "If I could leave Black Bear City, I would have done so long ago. I wouldn't have waited until now." "Why?" Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Ling Yunfei didn't say anything for a long time. It was as if he had some difficulties. "This is your last chance," Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Ling Yunfei's eyes trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, "My mother is in their hands. If I leave, they will kill her." "Why do they want to kill her?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "I don't know either. All these years I've tried my best to find out, but the Ling family never said a word about this matter. I've also asked my mother, but she refused to tell me. She only told me that if I want to live, I have to learn to endure. So all these years I've been enduring," Ling Yunfei said in pain. Qin Feiyang asked, "Where's your father?" Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, "I've never seen him, because he died before I was born." Qin Feiyang said, "How did he die?" Ling Yunfei said, "My mother told me that my father entered the Black Bear Mountain to gain experience. As a result, he was seriously injured by a fierce beast and died a few days after he came back. My father died, my mother was imprisoned, and my son was suppressed. Why do I feel a little strange?" Qin Feiyang muttered. His intuition told him that this matter was not so simple. After pondering for a moment, he looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "I need a sword." "Sword?" Ling Yunfei was stunned. He didn't understand why Qin Feiyang suddenly said such an inexplicable sentence. He said, "As long as you promise to help me, I'll buy it for you. When you understand the real meaning of this sentence, come to me." Qin Feiyang turned around and strode away. "A sword?" Ling Yunfei racked his brains. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through his mind. He shouted, "I'll be the sword in your hand. What I want is not an ordinary sword. It's a ruthless, cold-blooded, unconditional killing sword. Can you do it?" Qin Feiyang's voice came from the darkness. "I can do it." Chapter 68. Qin Feiyang walked out slowly and said with a smile, "Get up. A man should be able to support the heavens and earth. Don't kneel down to others so easily." "Okay." Ling Yunfei stood up, his face full of gratitude. He knew very well that the reason Qin Feiyang agreed to help him was completely out of sympathy. It was also because he valued his talent. But it didn't matter. As long as he could turn the situation around and take revenge, he was willing to be the sword. Qin Feiyong sized up Ling Yunfei and asked, "Are you sober?" Ling Yunfei's eyes flickered coldly as he said in a deep voice, "When they went to the restaurant to snatch the martial skills, my drunkenness was gone. Remember, I don't like people who are addicted to alcohol because drinking makes things worse. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to drink, just drink less." Qin Feiyong said. "I understand, I don't usually like to drink either." Ling Yunfei nodded. "That's good, now let's talk about you. The most important thing now is to save your mother. Otherwise, even if I give you more pills and martial skills, it won't make much of a difference. Unless you become a battle monarch and have overwhelming battle strength, but you and I can't do that in a short period of time." Qin Feiyong said. "I know all this, but the Grand Elder and Second Elder guarding my mother are both martial ancestor realm experts. It's harder than ascending to the heavens to save my mother from under their eyes." Ling Yunfei sighed helplessly. "Is your mother very strong?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "My mother doesn't know how to cultivate. She's just a very ordinary woman." Ling Yunfei said with a hint of heartache in his eyes. "Strange, does an ordinary woman need to be guarded by two Grand Elders?" Qin Feiyong thought to himself, feeling that this matter was getting more and more strange. After a moment of silence, Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered as he said, "Wait for me here, don't run around." After saying that, he turned around and quickly disappeared. Ling Yunfei retracted his gaze and looked at the waning moon in the sky, a smile creeping onto his face. "Mother, although this person's age is similar to mine, regardless of whether it is his temperament or his methods, they are far from what I can compare to. More importantly, I have a very real premonition that his background is not simple. If I follow him, I might really be able to leave Black Bear City and make a name for myself. Mother, this is the first decision I've made in my life. You won't object to it, right?" He was like a lonely night walker, standing in the dark as he muttered to himself. About 100 breaths. Qin Feiyong appeared again and waved his hand. "Take me to the Ling clan." Ling Yunfei stared blankly for a moment before asking in surprise, "Why are you going to the Ling family?" "Fall out." Qin Feiyong spat out these two words coldly. Ling Yunfei's eyes trembled, and he couldn't help but worry. The Ling family courtyard. At this moment they were singing, dancing, and laughing. For the Ling family, tonight was a beautiful night. Because not only was Ling Sheng about to enter the martial arts hall, but he also received a superior martial technique. But Qin Feiyong's purpose was to destroy all of this and make them happy for nothing. On both sides of the door, the two servants stood upright and were also in high spirits. But when they saw Qin Feiyong and Jiang Haoyan walking in one after another, their expressions suddenly changed. "Ling Yunfei, why are you with Jiang Haoyan? Why did you bring him to the Ling family?" The two of them shouted in a stern voice. Ling Yunfei was about to speak. Qin Feiyong said, "Do things straightforwardly, don't talk nonsense with them. You block them, I'll go report to the family head." Seeing Qin Feiyong coming menacingly, the servant on the left said something and hurriedly ran into the courtyard. "Jiang Haoyan, you stand there. This is the Ling family. You're not allowed to behave atrociously." The remaining servant stood in front of the door, holding the hilt of his sword, staring at Qin Feiyong vigilantly. "Today, I'm really going to behave atrociously in the Ling family." Qin Feiyong strode forward like a ferocious tiger with his hair fluttering in the wind. His formless aura made the servant retreat again and again as large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Get out of my way." He let out an explosive roar. The servant was scared out of his wits. His legs went soft and he sat on the ground. Seeing this scene, Ling Yunfei couldn't believe it to the extreme. One must know that no matter how weak the Ling family was, it was still one of the 3 strongest families in Black Bear City, with several martial ancestor realm experts. For a 4-star martial master, this was a tiger's den. But this person actually dared to force his way in without fear. This kind of courage, is he still a young man? Although his talent is not bad, his temperament is not stable and needs to be sharpened. Seeing Ling Yunfei's appearance, Qin Feiyong shook his head and muttered. He didn't realize that he was actually younger than Ling Yunfei. "Show me the way." He grabbed Ling Yunfei's arm. Ling Yunfei quivered and hurriedly said, "Right corridor." Qin Feiyong used the shifting smoke steps and rushed to the end of the corridor, quickly passing the servant. "Haha. It's really good to be in high spirits." When Shang enters the martial arts hall, he will have the opportunity to enter the martial king hall in the future. At that time, as long as that person from the Jiang family doesn't appear, our Ling family will be the strongest family in Black Bear City. Elders, let's drink to our heart's content tonight. In a certain hall, in front of a round dining table, the Ling family head raised his wine cup high in high spirits and laughed heartily. The dozens of elders were also full of smiles. Everyone was preparing to drink the wine in their cups. Coming early is better than coming at the right time. Elders of the Ling family, can you let the younger generation join in the fun? But at this moment, a light laughter sounded. Zhang Haotian. The group of people of the Ling family stood up together and then looked at the door. Da-da. Accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyong strode into the hall with a smile on his face. What are you doing here? Barging in without reporting first, aren't you being too arrogant? Get out of here immediately. The people of the Ling family were furious. The atmosphere at the scene was also extremely solemn. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, if I let someone inform in advance, would I still be able to enter the Ling family's gate? Don't be nervous. I'm just a small 4-star martial master. In front of you, I can't make any waves. This time, Ling Yunfei lowered his head and walked into the hall uneasily. The Ling family head raised his eyebrows and shouted, who let you in? Get out. Family head. The servant ran in breathlessly, pointed at Ling Yunfei and said, family. Don't worry, take a breath and speak slowly. Qin Feiyong looked at the decorations in the hall and said with a faint smile, phew. The servant took a deep breath and said, family head, elders, Zhang Haotian was brought in by Ling Yunfei. What? Ling Yunfei, how should you be punished? Little bastard, I think your wings have hardened and you want to rebel. The group of elders was furious. The Ling family head flew into a rage on the spot. He walked in front of Ling Yunfei and slapped him in the face. Qin Feiyong grabbed a wine glass and sniffed it. He said lightly, it smells good, you really know how to enjoy. But Ling Yunfei, do you want to continue to be silent? Ling Yunfei's body trembled. Seeing that the slap was about to land on his face, he suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the Ling family head's wrist. The Ling family head was stunned. He never thought that this little bastard, who didn't even dare to breathe loudly in front of him, would dare to resist? Second uncle. No, Ling family head, I'm not your servant, and I'm not the Ling family's servant. So from now on don't yell at me. Ling Yunfei gathered his courage and looked straight into the Ling family head's eyes. He said firmly, how dare you? You dare to speak to your second uncle like that, do you know what you're doing? The two elders shouted angrily. Of course I know. Ask yourselves, how did I respect you in the past? But what about you? You ordered me to come, you ordered me to go, you scolded me for no reason, and you didn't even want to give me low-grade martial skills. My position in the Ling family is even lower than those servants, don't you think it's funny? I want to ask you, when did you treat me, Ling Yunfei, as a descendant of the Ling family? Why should I respect people like you? Tell me, why should I? Ling Yunfei shouted angrily. At this moment, the resentment and humiliation that had accumulated in his heart for more than 10 years erupted like a volcano. The group of elders glared at him. Although they were angry, they had nothing to say. Because I'm the head of the family. You disregarded the family's rules and offended your superiors. I'll cripple you now. The Ling family head said coldly. True qi gushed out of his palm and he slapped towards Ling Yunfei's head. How was he going to cripple him? He was obviously going to kill him. At this moment, Qin Feiyong flicked his finger, and the wine cup in his hand flew out and hit the back of the Ling family head's head. With a crack, the wine cup broke and the wine spilled all over the Ling family head. This was a blatant humiliation. The group of people from the Ling family immediately shifted their gaze to Qin Feiyong. Ling Yunfei also took the chance and quickly hid behind Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. I'm sorry, my hand slipped. Your hand slipped? The Ling family head was furious. His facial features were distorted from anger. He laughed viciously. Little bastard, after I kill you and the pill hall investigates, I'll tell them that my hand slipped. According to what you said, after I kill you, or after I wipe out the Ling family with a wave of my hand, won't I say that my hand slipped? A weird voice suddenly came from outside. Following that, Feng Cheng and Elder Imo walked into the hall side by side. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and smiled. Greetings, elders. Ling Yunfei also followed and bowed. Before coming here, Qin Feiyong was worried that the Ling family might harm him. That was why he returned to the pill hall and asked Feng Cheng and Elder Imo for help. The two of them didn't refuse and hid in the dark. Once the two of them arrived, the people from the Ling family weren't as arrogant anymore. The Ling family head cupped his hands and said, "Elders, we're all reasonable people. It was Zhang Haoyan who was rude first. I'm the head of the Ling family, and he splashed wine on me in front of everyone. How am I going to stay in Black Bear City in the future?" Feng Cheng asked, "Did he splash wine on you?" The Ling family head pointed at the back of his head and said, "This is the evidence." Feng Cheng said, "Zhang Haoyan, tell me, did you splash wine on me?" Qin Feiyong said, "Elder, I didn't. I knew it. You were wronged by them." Chapter 69. Cough cough. Qin Feiyong choked on his saliva, and even his tears came out. "Isn't this old man too cute?" Ling Yunfei, who was standing at the side, had his face flushed red. However, his heart was unprecedentedly comfortable and carefree. However, the Ling family's people's expressions were very interesting. It was Zhang Haoyan who started the trouble first. However, Feng Cheng, as an elder of the Pill Hall and a battle emperor expert, not only did he not uphold justice, he even bit them back. Where was the justice? Where was the justice? Aggrieved. Angry. However, they did not dare to vent their anger. Battle Emperor and Pill Hall were like two towering mountains, pressuring them to the point of suffocation. Right now they were suffering in silence, unable to voice out their bitterness. Qin Feiyong coughed and said with a smile, "Elders, this is just a misunderstanding. Why don't we just let it go?" A few of the elderly elders spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The others were also trembling with anger. They felt suffocated. "It was you who came to the Ling family to cause trouble, but now you're acting like you're magnanimous. How could there be such a shameless person in this world?" They clenched their fists tightly. If looks could kill, Qin Feiyong would have been cut into pieces a long time ago. Ling Yunfei looked at them one by one. "You can't stand this? But have you ever thought about how I've been living like this for more than 10 years? Have you ever thought about my feelings? This is retribution. No, it's far from enough. I will continue to take revenge on you until you completely collapse." Ling Yunfei mumbled. The seed of hatred in his heart had already started to sprout and grow. Feng Cheng pretended to ponder for a while, then shook his head and said, "No, how can we just let it go after slandering a disciple of the Pill Hall?" Elder Imo said expressionlessly, "That's right. A small family dares to offend the prestige of the Pill Hall. If we don't kill them as a warning, how can the Pill Hall establish itself in Black Bear City?" Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. He admitted that he was already shameless enough, but he didn't expect these two old men to be even more shameless than him. If anyone was blind enough to provoke them, their future was destined to be a tragedy. "Elders, please be merciful." The head of the Ling family bent down and lowered his arrogant head as he pleaded. In fact, what he wanted to say was, "Please don't go too far." But he suddenly realized that he couldn't say that. Because once he said it, based on Feng Cheng's personality, the Ling family would definitely be in chaos tonight. What a headache. Feng Cheng rubbed his head and said, "Forget it. Since all of you are so pitiful, this old man will not hold a grudge against you. However, this old man hopes that all of you can speak nicely and don't force this old man and Old Man Imo to use force. If you want to force me to use force, then withdraw the Ling family's men first." Elder Imo said coldly. Although he didn't speak much, every word he said was enough to make people's hearts jump. The meaning behind his words was obvious. As long as he made a move, the Ling clan would be razed to the ground. "Thank you, elders. We will definitely talk nicely," the head of the Ling family said gratefully. The group of elders nodded one after another. This was the tragedy of a family. No matter how strong a family was, they would never dare to challenge the Pill Hall, the Martial Arts Hall, the Royal Family, and the Precious Treasure Pavilion. Feng Cheng said, "Zhang Haoyan, if you have something to say, just say it." "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at the head of the Ling family. He said, Please return the high-grade martial technique that you snatched from Ling Yunfei. Didn't you say that you don't want it? The head of the Ling family frowned. Reluctance was written all over his face. Qin Feiyong said, "Who said that I don't want it? Besides, even if I don't want it, it wouldn't be your turn to take it. Cut the crap and give it to me." One of the elders moved closer to the head of the Ling family and whispered a few words. The head of the Ling family's eyes lit up. He said, "Zhang Haotian, we have to be reasonable. The city lord made it very clear that Ling Yunfei also had a share. He is a member of the Ling family. The martial technique should belong to the Ling family. I will immediately make a copy for you." Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "All right, let's be reasonable. Before you make a copy, please ask Ling Yunfei's opinion." The head of the Ling family said, "No need to ask. He will definitely agree." Hearing this, Ling Yunfei's heart was suddenly filled with a strong anger. He shouted, "Who said that I would agree? The city lord gave it to me, so it is mine. Why should it belong to the Ling family?" "Little bastard, what did you say?" The head of the Ling family suddenly turned his head and stared at Ling Yunfei with a gloomy face. Cough cough. Feng Chang coughed and said indifferently, "Are you forcing me to be rough?" No. Elder Feng, don't misunderstand. Head of the Ling family, give him the martial technique. Yes, it's ours that can't run away. It's not that we can't force it. Seeing that the situation was not good, the elders immediately stepped forward and smiled apologetically to Feng Chang while persuading the head of the Ling family. "Little bastard, don't regret it." The head of the Ling family's lips moved slightly as he silently spat out this word. Ling Yunfei's body and mind trembled. Noticing Ling Yunfei's abnormality, Qin Feiyong asked in a low voice, "What's wrong? They might do something bad to my mother." Ling Yunfei whispered, his eyes full of worry. "Don't worry, I will help you think of a way." Qin Feiyong comforted him and walked to the head of the Ling family. He stretched out his hand and said, "Quickly take it out. Don't be so reluctant." The head of the Ling family simply hated Qin Feiyong. He took out the bamboo slip from his Qiankuan bag and threw it on the ground. He sneered and said, "Pick it up yourself." He wanted to use this opportunity to humiliate Qin Feiyong. A dignified head of the family actually plays such a small trick. How ridiculous. The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted as he stepped on the bamboo slip. True qi gushed out and the bamboo slip shattered, turning into fine powder. What? He actually destroyed the martial arts technique. The group of people of the Ling family was stunned and full of disbelief. Ling Yunfei was also the same. His heart ached. This guy was simply wasting God's gift recklessly. Even Feng Chang and the head of the Ling family found it unbelievable. "You destroyed the martial arts technique in front of us. Tell me, what do you mean?" The head of the Ling family shouted angrily. "I mean, the treasure in your eyes is worthless in my eyes. How does it feel? Now, are you humiliated or am I humiliated?" Qin Feiyong sneered. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't go too far." The head of the Ling family said word by word. His teeth were chattering and making creaking sounds. Qin Feiyong said innocently, "You're the one who asked for it. Why are you blaming me? Now let's talk about the second matter. Give me Ling Yunfei's mother." Impossible. The Ling family's patriarch didn't even think about it and flatly refused. The faces of the elders turned gloomy. Moreover, their eyes were even scarier than before. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that it was as he had expected. There was something fishy about this. He asked calmly, "Why is it impossible? She's just a weak woman. I really don't understand. What's the use of keeping her? This is a family matter of the Ling family. It has nothing to do with you." The head of the Ling family glanced at him coldly and looked at Feng Chang and the head of the Ling family. He cupped his fists and said, "Elders, I can agree to anything but this. I hope you can ask Zhang Haotian to restrain himself. Indeed, he should restrain himself. Otherwise, I'll definitely report this to the King of Yin." At this moment, a dignified voice sounded. The head of the city, the precious treasure pavilion, and the martial arts hall master arrived one after another. "City Lord, please uphold justice for my Ling family. This Zhang Haotian has the support of the Pill Hall. He's going to turn the world upside down." The people of the Ling family acted as if they saw their savior. They hurriedly ran to the front of the city lord and cried, "Zhang Haoyan, what should we do?" Ling Yunfei asked anxiously. "Don't panic. I have my ways," Qin Feiyong said softly. The arrival of the city lord was within his expectations. After all, the city lord didn't like him. How could he just stand by and do nothing after receiving the news? The martial arts hall master said, "Zhang Haoyan, you should be satisfied. Go back quickly. Don't mess around here." "I'm not messing around. Since everyone is here, let's get straight to the point. Head of the Ling family, I'll represent Ling Yunfei to officially challenge your son Ling Sheng," Qin Feiyong said. "Challenge?" The head of the Ling family raised his eyebrows. "That's right. Conflicts between martial artists naturally have to be resolved using martial artists' methods. 3 days later, Ling Yunfei and your son Ling Sheng will fight outside the city. If Ling Yunfei loses, not only him, but also me will be at your disposal. If Ling Yunfei wins, you will return his mother to him. Head of the Ling family, do you dare to accept the challenge?" Qin Feiyong looked at him coldly and aggressively. Everyone looked at each other. Was this kid stupid? Didn't he know that Ling Yunfei was just a trash? Feng Cheng's face darkened. He said, "Zhang Haoyan, it's too risky." "I don't agree." Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Wealth comes from danger." Everyone knows this sentence. Moreover, Ling Yunfei is my friend. I can't ignore his matters. Feng Cheng said angrily. "He betrayed you and you still treat him as a friend. Is there something wrong with your head?" Qin Feiyong said, "Elder Feng, thank you for your concern. But I have made up my mind. As long as the head of the Ling family dares to accept the challenge, I won't go back on my words. I can even sign the life and death contract now." "Crazy. You're completely crazy. Come back with me immediately." Feng Cheng shouted and grabbed Qin Feiyong's arm. He was about to drag him away. Seeing this, the head of the Ling family smiled and said loudly, "Zhang Haoyan, I accept your challenge. Sign the life and death contract now." Feng Cheng shouted, "I don't agree." Elder Mo suddenly said, "Old Feng, since Zhang Haoyan has spoken, he can't go back on his words. Otherwise, people will say that the disciples of the Pill Hall don't keep their words. Why are you doing the same thing?" Feng Cheng was so anxious that he was about to jump. "Old Feng, Old Mo is right. The reputation of the Pill Hall cannot be lost." At this moment, Luo Xiong walked into the hall without any expression on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. "You're all crazy," Feng Cheng shouted angrily. He turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong. He said, "Kid, I'll ask you one last time. Do you really want to sign this life and death contract?" Qin Feiyong nodded his head. "Xiaomu, I'm too lazy to care about you," Feng Cheng scolded and walked out of the hall to get some fresh air outside. Qin Feiyong was very touched. Although he didn't know what the final outcome would be, at least now, the people of the Pill Hall were truly concerned about him. Especially Feng Cheng. The head of the Ling family glanced at Qin Feiyong and shouted impatiently, "Someone prepare the ink." Soon, a servant carried a jade tray into the hall and placed it on the table. "I'll write the life and death contract for you." The head of the city went forward and took out a piece of white paper. He dipped the brush in the ink and waved it. Small words quickly appeared on the white paper. After a while, the life and death contract was written. Qin Feiyong looked at it carefully and said, "Head of the city, I want to add one more condition. The people of the Ling family must not hurt Ling Yunfei's mother. If they violate this, all the major forces will join hands and kill them." The head of the city raised his eyebrows and turned to look at the head of the Ling family. "Add," the head of the Ling family said in a deep voice. The head of the city picked up the brush again. After he finished writing, he retreated to the side. The head of the Ling family bit his finger and pressed a fingerprint on the paper. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyong and sneered, "It's your turn. Don't regret it." Qin Feiyong smiled casually. He cut his finger and pressed a handprint on it. Chapter 70. After signing the life and death contract, the 3 leaders of the Pill Palace brought Qin Feiyong and left the Ling family. Ling Yunfei also followed behind the 4 of them. But until now he was still confused. He didn't know what was going on. As for the life and death contract, it was kept by the city lord himself. Although he had a grudge with Qin Feiyang, he didn't dare to do anything to it. After all the leaders were present. It was already late at night. On the street, not a sound could be heard. Luo Xiong and the other two were also silent. Only the sound of footsteps echoed in the night sky. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Ling Yunfei, since Zhang Haoyan chose to help you, you should follow us back to the Pill Palace. When they arrived at the entrance of the Pill Palace, Luo Xiong finally opened his mouth and broke the silence. Thank you, Palace Lord. Ling Yunfei bowed and said. Luo Xiong glanced at him, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I don't want to ask about other things. I only want to ask one thing. Are you confident? I am. Qin Feiyang nodded. Luo Xiong looked at him deeply and didn't say anything else. He turned around and entered the Pill Palace. Idiot! Bastard! Idiot! Feng Cheng cursed a few more times before he stormed off. Zhang Haoyan, I will only say one thing. You are now tied to the Pill Palace. You are bound together for good or ill. Do you understand? Elder Mo said expressionlessly. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded. It's good that you understand. Elder Mo glanced at the two of them and left. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned around to look at Ling Yunfei. Seeing that he lowered his head and didn't say anything, he said, Follow me. Where to? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Outside the city. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he walked towards the eastern city gate. Why are we going outside the city? Ling Yunfei quickly followed him with a belly full of doubts. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you blaming me for making the decision for you? Qin Feiyang asked. No. Ling Yunfei shook his head and asked, Did you really sign the life and death contract? Could it be that he still hadn't come back to his senses? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. His temperament really needed to be sharpened as soon as possible. He asked, Are you afraid? Ling Yunfei sighed and said, I'm a commander without an army. What's there to be afraid of? I'm only afraid of implicating you. In fact, he was not confident. Ling Sheng was a 5-star martial master, and he had mastered 2 superior martial skills. He had the strength of 8 brute elephants. But what about him? He was only a 4-star martial master, and he did not even have a single martial technique. There was no hope for him to win, unless he could find a perfect martial skill, but there was no perfect martial skill in the entire Black Bear City. Where could he find one? Qin Feiyang said, I have a perfect martial skill. Ling Yunfei was stunned. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, To tell you the truth, Ice Crystal Finger, Thunder Wind Palm, and Shifting Smoke Steps are all perfect martial skills. What? Ling Yunfei was shocked. His eyes were filled with disbelief. There was no perfect martial skill in the entire Black Bear City. But this person actually had 3 perfect martial skills. Was he dreaming? Since there are only 3 days, I will only give you 2 perfect martial skills for the time being. One is an auxiliary martial skill, returning to origin steps. The other is a killing martial skill, locking heart killing fist. Qin Feiyang said. Thank you. Ling Yunfei said gratefully. But in the next moment, his body stiffened, and his face was full of surprise. He originally thought that this person would teach him one of the Ice Crystal Finger, Thunder Wind Palm, and Shifting Smoke Steps. But he did not expect that the martial skills taught to him were actually the other 2. In other words, this person not only mastered 3 perfect martial skills but 5. God! This guy, who the hell is he? I will only say the cultivation method once. The heart lock killing fist was a very strange killing fist. Lock the opponent's heart and smash it with one punch. But there will be no external injuries. It even looks like there is no injury, but in fact the opponent's heart has been shattered. This is the strangeness of the locking heart killing fist. Qin Feiyang said slowly. Ling Yunfei also hurriedly dispersed the distracting thoughts and listened carefully, memorizing every word deeply in his mind. Unknowingly, the city gate came into sight. Qin Feiyang's words came to an abrupt end, and he asked, Do you remember? Ling Yunfei nodded his head. Qin Feiyang said, The best and fastest way to learn martial skills is through actual combat. So in these 3 days, I want you to enter the Black Bear Mountain and fight with the beasts. Of course, there was another reason. He wanted to use actual combat to sharpen Ling Yunfei's heart. I will do my best. Ling Yunfei took a deep breath and said solemnly. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. The fate of your mother and I are in your hands. You can only do your best. The two of them walked out of the city gate one after the other and entered a dense forest. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, let's stop here. One last thing, don't die in the Black Bear Mountain. Don't worry, I will come back alive. Ling Yunfei smiled confidently, turned around, and stepped into the Black Bear Mountain resolutely. When he completely disappeared, Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Wolf King said, Little Qinzi, are you really going to train him? Qin Feiyong sighed, my enemies are too strong. With my strength alone, I can't compete with them at all. Even you don't have confidence? It seems that Brother Wolf has to think about it carefully. Alas, little Qinzi, Brother Wolf has to make this difficult choice. Don't blame Brother Wolf for being disloyal. From now on, let's part ways. Wolf King sighed. Qin Feiyong's face twitched. Little Qinzi, all good things must come to an end. Goodbye. Take care of yourself. If one day you are about to die, remember to inform Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf will come to collect your body. Wolf King's eyes were full of tears. He looked back 3 times with reluctance. Seeing this, Qin Feiyong's face darkened, and blue veins popped out. Haha, silly. Brother Wolf promises to take care of Ling Yunfei for you. Wolf King laughed sinisterly and ran into the forest without looking back. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Was he being teased by this white-eyed wolf again? Wolf cub, when you come back, I'll deal with you slowly. Qin Feiyong laughed and scolded, then turned and walked towards the city gate. He already had deep feelings for Wolf King. If Wolf King really left, he would be very disappointed. Zhang Haoyan, why did you come back alone? Ling Yunfei? When he came to the city gate, the 2 guards guarding the city gate looked at him doubtfully. How would I know? Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Zhang Haoyan, you are not honest. Don't worry, we won't tell others. The 2 guards smiled kindly. I really don't know. If you want to know, ask him himself. After saying that, Qin Feiyong entered the city. One of them hurriedly said, don't go. Just tell us, are you sure you can do it? No. Qin Feiyong said with a smile without looking back. If you are not sure, how can you smile? The guard was stunned. Maybe he is just pretending to be calm. The other guard said disdainfully. He rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, Zhao Lu, do you want to get some benefits? Zhao Lu said, who doesn't want benefits? But we have to have this opportunity first. There's a chance now. Let's do this. The guard whispered into Zhao Lu's ear. Ling family. After sending the city lord, the martial arts hall master, and the treasure pavilion master away, the Ling family's patriarch got someone to carry Ling Shang back from the restaurant. Ling Shang was already in a mess. Lying in the hall, sleeping soundly, no matter who called him, he couldn't wake up. The Ling family's patriarch was angry and shouted, bring me a basin of water. But at this time, a servant rushed in and said, Patriarch, the guard of the East City Gate, Zhao Lu, wants to see you. He is outside the door now. What is he doing here? The Ling family's patriarch was puzzled. The servant said, he said that he has a piece of news to tell you, and it has something to do with Ling Yunfei. Then what are you waiting for? Quickly invite him in. The Ling family's patriarch's eyes lit up as he hurriedly shouted, yes. The servant hurriedly ran out again. Carry him away for me. Don't embarrass yourself here. The Ling family's patriarch looked at Ling Shang with disappointment and ordered the few servants beside him. A few servants immediately stepped forward and carried Ling Shang away quickly. Not long later, Zhao Lu was led into the hall by the servant. He cupped his hands and said, Zhao Lu greets the Ling family's patriarch. The Ling family's patriarch looked at the servant and said, you can leave first. The servant bowed and left. The Ling family's patriarch stood up and greeted Zhao Lu, smiling. Brother Zhao Lu, don't be so polite. Come, please have some tea. Zhao Lu laughed. I still have official business to attend to, so there's no need for tea. Let's talk about business directly. But before that, Ling family's patriarch, don't you have to express your gratitude? Bitch. The Ling family's patriarch cursed and shouted. Butler, immediately prepare 500 gold coins. You want to send me away with 500 gold coins? Zhao Lu secretly sneered and laughed. Ling family's patriarch, I won't hide it from you. This news is worth more than 500 gold coins. The Ling family's patriarch raised his eyebrows and asked, then how much do you want? At least this much. Zhao Lu stretched out a finger. All right, 1,000 it is. The Ling family's patriarch nodded. Zhao Lu shook his head. No, it's 10,000 gold coins, and it's me and Li Qi 10,000 each. The Ling family's patriarch's eyes flashed with a cold light, and shouted, Butler, prepare 20,000 gold coins. Yes. The butler bowed and replied. Soon. He carried another Qingquan bag, returned to the hall, and handed it to Zhao Lu. After Zhao Lu checked it, he immediately smiled and looked at the Ling family's patriarch, saying, Ling Yunfei went to Black Bear Mountain. If he dies in Black Bear Mountain, won't your son win for sure? At that time, how to deal with Zhang Hao Tian, isn't it up to you? Haha, the Ling family's patriarch laughed and cupped his hands. Thank you for your reminder, brother Zhao Lu. Zhao Lu laughed. You're welcome, we're just taking what we need. I'll take my leave. Take care, I won't send you off. The Ling family's patriarch stretched out his hand and smiled. Zhao Lu turned around. But just as he turned around, the Ling family's patriarch's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he slammed his palm on Zhao Lu's back. Puff! Zhao Lu spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Humph! A little guard wants to take advantage of my Ling family. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Butler, go and kill Li Qi immediately. Then bury their bodies near the pill hall and frame Zhang Hao Tian. Don't let anyone see them on the way. After you're done, go to Black Bear Mountain personally and kill that little bastard. The Ling family's patriarch snorted, picked up the Qingquan bag and ordered. Patriarch is wise. Chapter 71. East City Gate. Li 7 was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth. Da-da. A series of footsteps could be heard. Li 7's spirit was lifted. He hurriedly turned around and saw a black figure striding towards him in the dark. Finally back. Zhao Lu, how many gold coins did you get? He asked excitedly. But the black figure didn't answer. It was dead silent. Zhao Lu? What are you doing? Why are you being so mysterious? Li 7 frowned. As the distance got closer, Li 7 finally realized that something was wrong. That black figure wasn't Zhao Lu, and the black figure was carrying a person on his shoulder. Whoosh! Suddenly, the black figure's speed increased tremendously. There was even a ray of white light coming out from his palm. That was true Qi. Li 7 realized that something was wrong and turned around to run. But the black figure was faster. He caught up with him in a few steps and killed Li 7 with one palm. This person was the butler of the Ling mansion. You don't know what's good for you. Butler Ling snorted coldly. He carried the two bodies and walked towards the pill hall. However, he did not notice that another black shadow walked out from behind a house on the street beside the city gate and silently followed behind him. When he arrived at the gate of the pill hall, Butler Ling glanced around and dug a hole. After burying Li 7 and the other person, he covered up the traces and rushed towards the East City Gate again. It seems that he wants to frame me. Soon. In the dark, a murmur could be heard. That's right. He was Qin Feiyang. At that time, when Li 7 and the other two were asking all kinds of questions, he had kept an eye on them. He pretended to leave and then hid in the dark to spy on them. As expected, the two of them were very dishonest. But Qin Feiyang didn't expect that the Ling family would kill them. In order to kill me, you guys are really unscrupulous. Since that's the case, it's impolite not to reciprocate. I'll repay you guys properly. Qin Feiyang sneered. He quickly dug up the soil and dragged Li 7 and the other person out. Then, he covered up the hole and covered up the traces. Then, he carried the two bodies and sneaked into the backyard of the Ling family. Along the way there was no danger. Then he found a rockery and buried the two bodies behind it. Now let's just wait and see. With a cold glint in his eyes, he left the Ling family without anyone knowing. Qin Feiyang stopped in front of the pill hall's gate. He raised his head and looked at the night sky. Butler Ling just went to the East City Gate. Is he going to assassinate Ling Yunfei? No, I have to go and take a look. Forget it. With Wolf King around, there shouldn't be any accidents. What's more, if I can't even deal with such a small crisis, how can I take charge in the future? Consider this a test for you. Don't disappoint me. After all, I'm betting my fate on you this time. Qin Feiyang mumbled. He turned around and entered the pill hall. Meanwhile, the battle at Black Bear Mountain had already begun. Wolf King immediately sensed that someone was following them. Why would someone come to Black Bear Mountain in the middle of the night? Furthermore, this aura is not weak. No matter who it is necessary to remind Ling Yunfei. Roar! Immediately, it let out a wolf howl. It was especially loud in the forest at night. Wolf! Could it be Qin Feiyang? Both Ling Yunfei and Steward Ling were bewildered. If I can catch Qin Feiyang, it will be a great achievement. Butler Ling mumbled. His old eyes flashed and he immediately ran towards the direction of the wolf howl. Ling Yunfei was hesitating, but in the end he still decided to take a look. After 10 breaths, he ran in front of a river. It was the river where Qin Feiyang killed Jiang Chuan and the others. Therefore, he knew that there were many black scale crocodiles hiding in the river. He didn't cross the river rashly, and Wolf King was hiding in a bush on the opposite side of the river. Haha! Qin Feiyang, I finally found you. Suddenly, a hoarse laugh rang out from the forest behind them. It's the butler's voice. Why is he in Black Bear Mountain? Not good, he must be here to kill me. Ling Yunfei had been in the Ling family for more than 10 years, so he naturally recognized Butler Ling's voice. He didn't turn around. He took a few steps back and suddenly swooped down. He stepped on the river with all his strength and jumped high. In a flash, he landed on the other side of the river. Roar! Splash! A few black scale crocodiles jumped out of the water, but it was too late. So it's him. There were no trees blocking the sky above the river. With the help of the moonlight, Butler Ling clearly saw Ling Yunfei. He quickly chased to the river and said with a smile, Yunfei, why are you here? Why are you here again? Ling Yunfei turned to look at him and asked instead of answering. Although he didn't know the real purpose of this person, he felt very uneasy. I'm here to look for medicinal herbs. Butler Ling chuckled. It's really hard for you to look for medicinal herbs in the middle of the night. Ling Yunfei sneered. There's no other way. This is the order of the patriarch. By the way, I heard the wolf howl and chased after you. Did you see anything? Butler Ling asked. I didn't see anything. I won't disturb you looking for medicinal herbs. Goodbye. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he turned and quickly ran into the forest. This little bastard, when did he become so vigilant? Butler Ling's eyes were filled with coldness as he suddenly jumped up. Splash! At the same time, more than a dozen black scale crocodiles jumped out of the water, but they couldn't bite him because he jumped too high. However, Wolf King, who was hiding in the bushes, laughed sinisterly. Whoosh! It rushed out of the bushes like an arrow. Seeing that Butler Ling was about to land on the riverbank, it bumped into him. Butler Ling immediately cried out in alarm and fell into the river with a thud. The group of black scale crocodiles immediately opened their bloody mouths and pounced. Little guy, although you're a martial ancestor, in the forest at night, Wolf King has 100 ways to make your life worse than death. Wolf King smiled disdainfully and turned to run into the forest. Butler Ling was somewhat confused. Who bumped into him? Just now he vaguely saw that it was a wolf? He angrily attacked and after killing the group of black scale crocodiles, he jumped out of the water and landed on the shore, but he couldn't even find a shadow. Wolf King was long gone. Although he killed the black scale crocodiles, the fangs of the black scale crocodiles also made him pay a heavy price. Several parts of his body had been torn off. His entire body was dripping with blood. A heart-wrenching pain assaulted every nerve in his body, and at the same time, it also assaulted his rationality. Damn bastards, I won't forgive you. He roared and like a mad bull, he chased after Wolf King and Ling Yunfei. He really wants to kill me. Ling Yunfei heard the roar from afar and his heart sank. But soon after, a cold smile crept onto his face. The Black Bear Mountain was vast and boundless. As long as he got rid of this person, there was nothing to worry about. But why did he say you guys? Could it be that there are other people nearby? With a stomach full of doubts, he turned and rushed in another direction. Wolf King relied on his sharp sense of smell and followed behind him. But it wasn't easy for them to get rid of Butler Ling. After all, Butler Ling was a martial ancestor realm expert. His speed was much faster than them. Thus, a competition of pursuit unfolded. At the same time, at the center of the pill hall, there was a pitch-black hall. It was more than 100 feet tall and occupied an area of a few hundred feet. It was majestic and imposing. This was the Pill Fire Hall. It was the place where the disciples of the Pill Hall refined pills. It was also one of the important places of the Pill Hall. After Qin Feiyong returned to the Pill Hall, he went straight to this place. The pitch-black door was tightly shut. On both sides of the door, there were two middle-aged men sitting cross-legged. They were the deacon elders of the Pill Hall. They were in charge of guarding the Pill Fire Hall. The Pill Fire Hall was a hole, and there was only one entrance. Qin Feiyong stopped at the door and cupped his hands. Disciple Jiang Haoyan greets the two deacon elders. Ling Yan brought him here before, so he knew a thing or two about their identity and strength. Similarly, the two deacon elders also knew Qin Feiyong. The man on the left smiled and said, "Let me see your identity token." After taking out his identity token from his Chenkuan bag, Qin Feiyong handed it over with both hands. On the front of the token there were two big words carved on it. Pill Hall. On the back, there was Qin Feiyong's name and the number 110. The deacon elder looked at it for a while and returned the token to Qin Feiyong. Then he pushed open the stone door and smiled. "Go in, turn right and walk to the end. It's your cultivation room." "Thank you, elder." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and thanked him. Then he strode into the Pill Fire Hall. The temperature in the hall could only be described with two words. Cool. Although it was a place for refining pills, it wasn't hot at all. The deacon elder reminded, "Jiang Haoyan, when you come out, put your token in the dent beside the stone door. The stone door will open automatically." After saying that, he closed the stone door. Qin Feiyong turned around and saw an inch-deep dent on the wall beside the stone door. It was the same size and shape as the token. The higher the number of the alchemy room, the purer the alchemy fire. "Looks like I have to work harder and get the number 1 alchemy room," Qin Feiyong muttered. He walked into the corridor on the right and walked towards the end. On the walls on both sides there was a stone door at a certain distance. There were numbers on the stone doors. However, he didn't see anyone in such a big corridor. Rumble. When Qin Feiyong passed by the number 4 alchemy room, the stone door suddenly opened. A strong medicinal fragrance came to his nose. Qin Feiyong stopped in his tracks and turned his head around to look curiously. He saw an old acquaintance walking out with a jade bottle in his hand. It was Cheng Yi. "Jiang Haoyan?" Cheng Yi was stunned. He smiled and said, "What a coincidence. Are you here to refine pills?" Qin Feiyong nodded. However, he muttered in his heart, "Isn't this nonsense? If you're not here to refine pills, are you here to sightsee? Then what alchemy room are you in? Look at my brain. I've become muddled from refining pills. You're engaged to Elder Feng's granddaughter. If nothing goes wrong, you'll be a family sooner or later. He'll definitely take extra care of you and give you a room near the front. It's good to have connections. You're not like us. We've worked hard to climb up step by step." Chapter 72. Looking at Cheng Yi's face, Qin Feiyong really wanted to slap him. Wasn't it just a 6th-level mental strength? What was there to show off? He wanted to teach this person a lesson, but on second thought it was a waste of time to argue with such a clown. "Let's talk when we have time." He smiled and strode toward the alchemy room. "Unhappy? No wonder, after hearing what I said, even a thick-skinned person would feel ashamed." Cheng Yi sneered in his heart. But he didn't leave. He wanted to know which alchemy room Qin Feiyong was in. Seeing Qin Feiyong stop at the door of the last alchemy room, his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of surprise. It seems that Elder Feng doesn't take care of him very well. He muttered to himself. Immediately he revealed his white teeth and smiled. "Jiang Haoyan, my alchemy room is number 4. The alchemy fire is several times purer than yours. If you need it, come to me at any time." Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Was it not over? But before he could speak, Changyi said again, "Don't thank me. It's my duty to take care of the new disciples. If there's anything you don't understand, remember to ask me." After saying that, he turned and walked toward the door, his face full of disdain. "I have a bad temper. Alchemy room number 4, right? Okay, I'll fight with you. Let's see how long you can be proud." Qin Feiyong sneered, turned back, walked into the alchemy room, and closed the stone door. The size of the alchemy room was about 5 meters and it was square. In the center there was a stone platform with an alchemy furnace on it. The alchemy furnace was the size of a wash basin. It was dark and engraved with unknown patterns. It looked a bit old. In a corner next to it there was an old futon. But apart from these there was nothing else. It seemed very empty. Finally, alchemy. Qin Feiyong glanced around and looked at the alchemy furnace on the stone platform. He was a little excited and a little nervous. 5 years ago, he never thought that one day, he would walk into the alchemy room and personally refine pills. But, while he hated those people, he was also grateful to them. If it weren't for that unforeseen event, he would at most still be that insufferably talented and insufferably arrogant prince. He wouldn't be as sensible as he was now, nor would he be able to break through the limits of a martial artist and open the first gate of potential. He wouldn't know what hardship was and what it meant to cherish. Of course, what was lost was important. But the harvest was even more important. Who? Qin Feiyong shook his head and let out a long breath. Dispelling the distracting thoughts in his mind, he took out the healing pill formula and studied it carefully. After recording every single step in his mind, Zhang Xian took out the medicinal herbs required for the recovery pill and placed them on the stone platform beside the cauldron in order so that he could proceed with the next step. Everything was ready. "Jiang Haoyan, are you there? We heard that you were concocting pills, so we came to give you some pointers. Open the door." Outside, suddenly there was a commotion. "Pointers?" Qin Feiyong sneered. Most likely, he had come here on purpose to monitor him. "I'll satisfy you." He walked over and opened the stone door. It was Ling Yan who entered his sight. Beside him was a man and a woman who looked to be 17 or 18 years old. They were dressed in gorgeous clothes and there was a hint of arrogance between their brows. Ling Yan smiled and said, "Jiang Haoyan, let me introduce you. This is senior sister Lu Hong and this is senior brother Ji Jin. They both have level 5 mental strength and are famous figures in Black Bear City." Qin Feiyong glanced at the two of them and said with a smile, "Greetings, senior brother and senior sister." Lu Hong said, "We're all from the same sect, don't be so polite." Ji Jin looked up and down at Qin Feiyong and said lightly, "We heard that this is your first time concocting pills, so we discussed coming over to take a look and give you some pointers. Junior brother Jiang won't blame us for coming uninvited, right? It's my honor to have the two of you here. How would I dare to blame you? Please come in." Qin Feiyong retreated to the side, revealing a flattered look. But in his heart there was a chill. You're courting death." The only people who knew that he was concocting pills now, other than Changyi, were the two deacon elders. The deacon elders would definitely not say much. Except for Changyi. He knew Changyi's purpose. It was nothing more than wanting to know his talent in concocting pills. But he couldn't bring himself to do it, so he let Ling Yan and the other two come. First, he racked his brains to get the level of his mental strength, and now he let people monitor him. In order to control his information, this person was really scheming. Ling Yan and the other two walked into the concocting room one after another. After Qin Feiyong closed the stone door, he walked to the front of the furnace, closed his eyes and held his breath. The three of them looked at each other and a trace of disdain flashed across their eyes at the same time. They stood at the side and watched with their arms crossed. They didn't come to give pointers at all but to watch a show. A moment later, Qin Feiyong opened his eyes. His gaze was as calm as water as he lowered his head to look at the stone table in front of him. At the edge there was a small white square that looked like a button. He stretched out his hand, covered the button with his big hand, and pressed it hard. Crack! Accompanied by an ear-piercing sound, the center of the stone table, under the pill furnace, suddenly split open, revealing a fist-sized black hole. Buzz! The next moment, a burst of pill fire rushed out from the black hole. Heat waves surged. The temperature in the concocting room rose rapidly. Before long, beads of sweat appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead. The bottom of the pill furnace was also burning red rapidly, and waves of heat were steaming. Immediately after, with a thought, a wave of mental strength surged out from the top of his head and headed straight for the pill fire. Although the pill fire did not come into direct contact with his body, there was still a strong burning sensation that spread through his mental strength continuously. For the first time, he was caught off guard and quickly retracted his mental strength. After taking a deep breath, he controlled his mental strength and charged towards the pill fire once more. The first step of concocting pills was to control the pill fire. That was because every herb required a different level of heat. If the temperature of the pill furnace was too high, the herbs would burn instantly and turn into black smoke. However, if the temperature was too low, the essence of the herbs would not be extracted. Therefore, one had to be precise. However, no matter who it was impossible to be precise on the first try. One had to adjust and get used to it slowly. About an hour later, Qin Feiyang's mental strength gradually adapted to the high temperature of the pill fire. Until the end, his mental strength and pill fire blended together as one. It was as though the pill fire was a part of his body and he could not feel any heat at all. This meant that the first step was a success. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. With a thought, he adjusted the pill fire to the minimum. Thereafter, he transferred a wisp of mental strength from his consciousness and wrapped it around a jade-green herb before placing it into the pill furnace. So fast! The three of them exchanged glances with a look of disbelief. The fusion of mental strength and pill fire was not something that could be done easily. Ji Jin asked in a low voice, "Ling Yan, how long did you take to fuse your mental strength and pill fire back then?" Ling Yan replied, 2 months. What about you guys? Ji Jin replied in a low voice, "A month?" Lu Hong said, "Same for me. If I remember correctly, Qingyi also took 10 days. However, this person only took an hour. It's unbelievable. The higher the level of mental strength, the faster it fuses with pill fire. Looks like he lied to us. He doesn't have level 5 mental strength. His mental strength is even stronger than Chang Yi's." Ji Jin clenched his fists and a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Only the three of them could hear his weak voice. This bastard actually dared to lie to us. He's courting death. When Lu Hong and the other woman heard this, strands of bone-piercing coldness appeared in their eyes. However, it was quickly covered up by them. While the three of them were discussing in private, Qin Feiyang was also constantly adjusting the temperature. As the temperature in the pill furnace became more and more balanced, the medicinal herb also slowly emitted a rich medicinal fragrance. Finally, Qin Feiyang controlled the temperature to 30%. This was the precise temperature required for that medicinal herb. Under the scorching temperature, the herb was constantly withering. Moreover, from the herb, wisps of dark green mist were constantly overflowing. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He hurriedly controlled his mental strength and wrapped the mist to protect it from evaporation. Finally, the herb turned into ashes. The mist gathered together and condensed into a drop of dark green liquid. It was suspended in the pill furnace and emitted a hazy luster. There was also a sense of spirituality. This was the essence of the herb, also known as the spiritual liquid. Qin Feiyang was already sweating profusely at this moment. However, he didn't dare to be distracted. He repeated the process and also put the second herb into the pill furnace. He began to adjust the pill fire and refine the spiritual liquid. Alchemy was a delicate job. Not only was it cumbersome and complicated, but it also had to be very careful. The slightest mistake would result in failure. Qin Feiyang also deeply understood the difficulty of alchemy. This was not only a test of a person's patience, but also a test of a person's perseverance. Ling Yan and the other two were already dumbfounded. They clearly remembered that during the first alchemy, they didn't know how many herbs they had to waste before they succeeded. However, this bastard actually succeeded in refining the spiritual liquid in one try. Wasn't this control a little too strong? If they didn't see that Qin Feiyang's movements were still very unfamiliar, they definitely wouldn't believe that it was Qin Feiyang's first alchemy. The word shame was clearly written on the three's faces. They said that they were going to guide this person, but now it seemed that this person was the one guiding them. At the same time, Their hearts were filled with jealousy. Letting such a person stay in the pill palace would not only threaten their position, but also take away everything they had. Qin Feiyong didn't know what the three were thinking, and he didn't have the time to care about it. There were 8 kinds of herbs for the healing pill. He had already refined the spiritual liquid of 7 kinds of herbs. Dozens of breaths passed. The spiritual liquid of the 8th kind of herb was finally refined. Now it was the last step. Fuse the spiritual liquid of the 8 kinds of herbs together. Similarly, this was also the most crucial step. During the fusion, it had to be done very gently. It couldn't be disturbed by the outside world. Otherwise, if he lost his mind and didn't control it well, not only would the spiritual liquid be wasted, the furnace might even explode. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath. He controlled his mental strength and let the 8 kinds of spiritual liquid slowly get closer. Ouch, my stomach hurts. Seeing that the 8 kinds of spiritual liquid were about to fuse, Ling Yan suddenly hugged his stomach and roared. Bang! Clang! Chapter 73. The explosion of the elixir furnace was like a clap of thunder, causing Qin Feiyong's ears to buzz. The fragments flew everywhere like sharp blades. A few wounds appeared on Qin Feiyong's body instantly. His flesh was torn apart and he was dripping with blood. There was even a palm-sized fragment that entered his chest and was only an inch away from his heart. In other words, if the fragment entered another inch and hit his heart, even an immortal would not be able to save him. However, he stood on the spot as if he could not feel pain. He stared at the destroyed stone platform in silence. His entire body was covered in dust and he was in a sorry state. Zhang Haoyan, why did you cause such a big commotion? Are you all right? Open the door. Hearing the news, the 2 deacon elders hurried in and shouted anxiously outside the door. However, Qin Feiyong turned a deaf ear. However, his hands slowly clenched tightly. Ling Yan and the other 2 at the side also looked at each other. They did not expect that the furnace would explode. This is too big. Let's retreat. Lu Hong tugged at Ling Yan and the other 2's sleeves. The 2 of them shuddered and immediately turned to leave. Boom! The stone door opened. A cloud of dust and smoke surged out. The 2 deacon elders waved their hands and looked at Ling Yan and the other 2. They frowned and asked, what happened? The furnace exploded. Ling Yan hurriedly said before running out of the alchemy room with Lu Hong. They hurriedly ran outside. Furnace exploded? The 2 deacon elders were stunned and rushed in. They were shocked when they saw the messy elixir refining room. They looked at Qin Feiyong again. He was dripping with blood. Especially when they saw the fragment in Qin Feiyong's chest. Their hearts almost jumped out. Zhang Haoyan, are you all right? Take this healing elixir. Don't move. I'll help you take out the fragment. The 2 of them each took out a healing elixir and the other reached out to take the fragment. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyong turned around and walked past the 2 of them, heading outside step by step. Even Zhang Haoyan failed on his first attempt. Yes. Don't be so depressed. Just try a few more times and you'll definitely succeed. The 2 of them were stunned. They hurriedly chased after her and comforted her softly. Many thanks to the 2 elders, but the cauldron explosion is not my fault, Qin Feiyong said gloomily. This time Ling Yan and the other 2 had completely enraged him. The 2 deacon elders looked at each other with bewilderment in their eyes. Could it be because of Ling Yan and the other 2? No matter what the reason is, healing is more important. Yes, if you don't stop the bleeding, you'll die. The 2 of them were burning with anxiety. The hall master, Elder Feng, and Elder Mo had personally given them a death order. Even if they had to die, they had to protect this kid. From this, it could be seen how important this kid was to the 3 magnates. If anything were to happen, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. The door was open. Qin Feiyong strode out, leaving behind blood-red footprints. He stood on the stone stairs outside the door and looked up. He saw Ling Yan and the other 2 walking towards a large hall, chatting and laughing along the way. And they were laughing at him. 2 elders, I'm fine. Don't worry. Qin Feiyong turned his head and grinned at the 2 deacon elders. Then, he used the smoke-gathering steps and chased after the 3 of them. The 2 deacon elders were shocked in their hearts. Because they read a trace of cold murderous intent in Qin Feiyong's smile. Then they looked at Qin Feiyang, who was rushing towards Ling Yan and the other two. They immediately realized that something was wrong. Let's go and take a look. The two of them hurriedly chased after Qin Feiyang. Ling Yan and the other two also noticed Qin Feiyang behind them. They turned their heads to look. Immediately, their pupils shrank. The current Qin Feiyang was covered in blood. His face was as cold as ice. Under the moonlight, he looked like a blood-soaked Azura. They couldn't help but feel scared. Zhang Haoyan, what are you trying to do? Ling Yan shouted. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He moved more than 10 meters in one step and quickly approached them. Not good. He wants to kill us. Let's go. Ji Jin's expression changed. He turned around and began to escape. Kill us? Does he dare? Ling Yan was disdainful. He would believe it if Zhang Haoyan said that he scolded them. However, the pill hall had a rule to not kill fellow disciples. Even if Qin Feiyang had more guts, he wouldn't dare. Lu Hong also thought that Qin Feiyang wouldn't dare. Therefore, not only did she not escape, she even stared at Qin Feiyang arrogantly and said, Zhang Haoyan, this is the pill hall, not outside. You better keep your temper and behave. Behave? Now I will tell you what the rules are. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. He took a few steps forward and grabbed Ling Yan's hair. He pulled it down forcefully. At the same time, he raised his knee and kicked Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ling Yan screamed on the spot. Didn't you have a stomachache? Now I will treat you. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He threw Ling Yan on the ground and stepped on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ah! Ling Yan screamed crazily. His screams were heart-wrenching. His face was distorted from the pain. How do you feel? Qin Feiyang grinned and said, I am going to kill you. Ling Yan screamed hysterically. He crawled up and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Humph! Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. His body tilted slightly as his fist ferociously attacked. His fist sent Ling Yan flying and similarly landed on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ouch! Ling Yan screamed like a pig being slaughtered. His face turned into the color of a pig's liver. With a bang he fell into a bush. Even the ground caved in. Then, he couldn't get up anymore. He curled up and screamed miserably. The two deacon elders ran over and saw this scene. Their faces changed as they shouted, Zhang Haoyan, don't mess around. I'm not messing around. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. He turned around and looked at Lu Hong. Lu Hong was already dumbfounded. She didn't expect this person to dare to make a move in the Pill Palace. I don't hit women, but it doesn't mean that I don't dare to. Don't provoke me again. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Hong with disdain. He walked past her and chased after Ji Jin. Zhang Haoyan, stop right there. Lu Hong suddenly shouted. Her face was as cold as ice. In the entire Pill Palace, other than Cheng Yi, no one dared to fight with her among the disciples. Not even Ji Jin. Since the beginning, she had always thought of herself as a proud daughter of the heavens. But now, she was being looked down upon by a new disciple. Qin Feiyang's look of disdain seriously hurt her self-esteem. But Qin Feiyang acted as if he didn't hear it. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me? Lu Hong was burning with anger. She turned around and pounced towards Qin Feiyang with a murderous look. True qi gushed out from her palm. Qin Feiyang slowed down. A cold light flashed in his eyes. This is going to be a mess. The two deacon elders looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with anxiety. One of them said, He Wu, you go and save Ling Yan. I will stop them. He Wu nodded and walked towards Ling Yan. But he suddenly turned around and shouted, Guba, hurry up. Otherwise someone will really die. I know. Guba replied and chased after the two at full speed. He cursed. These little bastards are really troublesome. At this moment, Lu Hong had already caught up with Qin Feiyang. How dare you look down on me? I will make you pay the price. Qingyun palm. She let out a fierce shout and fiercely slapped Qin Feiyang's back with her palm that had been accumulating power for a long time. Qingyun palm was a superior martial arts technique. She was a 4-star martial master. So the strength of this palm was equivalent to the strength of 7 brute elephants. The wind from the palm whistled and sand and stones flew. But Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around and slammed his palm out as well. There was an ear-piercing sound of wind and thunder. Bang! The two palms met. Lu Hong spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Her face turned pale in an instant. In the end, she staggered and sat on the ground. How is this possible? Aren't you also a 4-star martial master? How can your strength be stronger than mine? She couldn't believe it. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips with a trace of disdain and said, "You are a typical example of shameless people. Does your butt hurt? Do you want me to find someone to rub it for you? Bastard, I will slap you to pieces." Lu Hong immediately glared and gnashed her teeth. She stood up and pounced towards Qin Feiyong. Slap! Qin Feiyong stretched out his big hand and slapped her in the face. Lu Hong was directly sent flying and rolled on the ground. There was a bloody palm print on the left side of her face. It was burning with pain. Even her cheeks were quickly swollen. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Her hair was disheveled and she was in a sorry state. This is the last warning. Don't provoke me. Otherwise, even if you are a woman, I will kill you. Qin Feiyong left these words and quickly turned to leave. Are you okay? Gu Ba ran over and squatted in front of Lu Hong. He asked with concern. Lu Hong said with grievance, Elder Gu, Zhang Haotian is causing trouble out of nothing. He has no respect for the law and hurt his fellow disciples. You must punish him severely. I will report this matter to the hall master. You take care of your injuries. Gu Ba patted her shoulder and sighed deeply. He continued to chase Qin Feiyong. He was quite puzzled. How could this kid be so fast? At the same time, Ji Jin was hiding behind a large hall, gasping for air and sweating profusely. It's too scary. This person can't be provoked. He began to regret it now. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have caused trouble even if he was beaten to death. It should be safe to hide here. He looked outside and saw Qin Feiyong standing more than 10 meters away, scanning the surroundings. Hey senior brother Ji Jin, what are you peeping at? I know you must be looking at a beauty. Let Fat Lord take a look. But suddenly, a suspicious voice sounded behind him. A fat man with a big head and big ears snuck up behind Ji Jin. Ji Jin's face changed. He hurriedly turned around and covered Fatso's mouth. He shouted in a low voice, Damn Fatso, what are you shouting about? Fatso revealed a smirk. There really was a beauty there before. You really know how to join in the fun. Ji Jin cursed angrily. He turned around and stuck his head out again. Before he had time to look, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his line of sight. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyong? Ji Jin's face suddenly became incomparably pale. Damn, it's a man? Fatso was stunned. A trace of disdain crawled up in his eyes. He laughed and said, Senior brother Ji Jin, I didn't expect you to like men? TSK. Your taste is really heavy. Shut up. Ji Jin suddenly turned around and shouted at him. Senior brother, don't be embarrassed. Don't worry. I promise to help you keep this secret. Fatso patted his chest hard and said righteously, Where did this top quality come from? Chapter 74. Fatso also raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong. He smiled and cupped his fists. I'm Qin Feiyong. Nice to meet you. His sarcastic tone made Qin Feiyong feel goosebumps all over his body. Ji Jin looked at Qin Feiyong and said angrily, Damn Fatso. Can you keep your mouth shut? Okay, I won't say anything. You guys continue to be intimate. Fat Lord will be the good guy and keep watch for you guys. Fatso looked at the two of them and gave them a I understand look. He then walked away with a smirk, shaking his butt and whistling a tune. Ji Jin glared at Fatso and turned to Qin Feiyong. He smiled apologetically, he's just like that. Don't bother with him. Qin Feiyong said coldly, You don't have to worry about him. Worry about yourself. Me? Ji Jin was stunned. He pretended to be confused and asked, What about me? Ling Yan was the one who complained of a stomachache. Shouldn't you go and settle the score with him? Qin Feiyong said, Okay, I'll give you a chance. Did Changyi ask you to come and cause trouble? Ji Jin hurriedly waved his hand. No. I was just curious. It has nothing to do with Senior Changyi. Qin Feiyong's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything else. He reached out his hand and slapped at Ji Jin's face. Jiang Haotian, I advise you not to push your luck. Jijin punched out. Suddenly a strong wind blew and sand turned into stones. The strength of this punch was equivalent to the strength of 6 elephants. Obviously, he was prepared for this. 3-star martial master weaker than Lu Hong. You dare to make a move? Binding tiger hand. Qin Feiyong bent his 5 fingers like an eagle's claw and brushed past Ji Jin's fist. Then he turned his wrist and grabbed Ji Jin's arm. At the same time, a ferocious glint appeared in his eyes. Driving his Jinqi, Zhang Xian exerted his strength and broke Ji Jin's arm. With a cry of agony, Ji Jin's arm was fractured on the spot. Why are they fighting? When Fatso heard the commotion, he stopped and turned around to look at the two of them. His eyes were filled with shock. Were they not lovers? Was it an enemy? Or was it because one party cheated and the other party's love turned into hate? Qin Feiyong said, Tell me, did Qingyi send you here? No. Ji Jin roared. Still not being honest. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly and kicked Ji Jin's knee fiercely. Crack. Immediately, his knee snapped. Ji Jin's body went soft, and he directly knelt on the ground, groaning miserably. How ruthless. When Fatso saw this, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Can you tell me now? Qin Feiyong looked down at Ji Jin from above. His gaze was bone-chilling. Ji Jin's body trembled and he hurriedly said, I'll tell you. Qingyi sent us here. He wants to know your talent in alchemy, and wants us to create some trouble for you and embarrass you. Sure enough. Qin Feiyong whispered. I can't help it. Changyi has level 6 spiritual force and is well liked by the elders and palace masters. It can even be said that among the disciples, he can cover the sky with one hand. If I don't listen to him, I guarantee that I won't have a good life in the future. Jiang Haotian, I beg you, let me go this time. I promise that I won't provoke you in the future. Ji Jin pleaded. Covering the sky with one hand, he really thinks of himself as someone important. Qin Feiyong sneered. He moved like lightning and broke Ji Jin's other arm. He said indifferently, I'll let you go this time, but if there's a next time, Ji Jin hurriedly said, there definitely won't be a next time, I swear. That's for the best. Qin Feiyong laughed disdainfully, raised his head and looked at Fatso, then turned and left. So he's Jiang Haotian. Fatso muttered, his eyes filled with fear. This time, Guba finally found him. It wasn't because his speed wasn't as fast as Qin Feiyong's. It was because it was the middle of the night and it was dark everywhere. There was only the weak moonlight and candlelight. If it wasn't for Ji Jin's screams, he would have lost him. He stopped in front of Qin Feiyong and asked, What did you do to Ji Jin? Qin Feiyong said, I only broke his 2 arms and 1 leg. What? Guba was shocked and hurriedly ran to the back of the hall. When he saw Ji Jin lying on the ground with a distorted face and constantly groaning, his face became extremely ugly. Guba shouted, Jiang Haotian, what the hell is going on? You must give me a clear explanation today. Otherwise I can only bring you to see the hall master. Qin Feiyong said, Sure, it just so happens that I also want an explanation, let's go now. Guba was furious, but there was a sense of powerlessness in his heart. He nodded and said, All right, we'll go now. He Wu, bring Ling Yan and Lu Hong, and go find the hall master. He shouted again, picked up Ji Jin and walked past Qin Feiyong, along a small path, towards the hall where Luo Xiong was. Fatso looked at the 3 of them sneakily, then turned around and ran away. Stop. Qin Feiyong said. He's not calling me, he's definitely not calling me. Fatso muttered, and couldn't help but quicken his pace. Qin Feiyong said, Damn Fatso, if you don't stop, don't blame me for being impolite. Fatso's face changed and he fled for his life. Qin Feiyong activated Luo Yan's steps, and with a few strides, he caught up to Fatso and reached out to grab the clothes on his back. However, Fatso, without saying a word, took off his clothes and continued to flee. Looking at the fat on his body that was trembling crazily, Qin Feiyong's face could not help but twitch. He did not expect this guy to be so slippery. Shua. He chased after him again and lightly hooked his leg. Fatso immediately fell to the ground and ate a mouthful of mud. Pa pa pa. Fatso got up, spat out the mud in his mouth and looked at Qin Feiyong pleadingly, saying, Big brother, Please spare me, I'm just a passerby, just pretend that you didn't see me. Okay? Seeing that, Qin Feiyong could not help but want to laugh, but his face was cold and said, the point is, I saw it and you also heard it. Fatso was like an eggplant that was sunburned, and immediately drooped his head. Qin Feiyong casually threw the clothes on Fatso's body, and said with a faint smile, put on your clothes and leave quickly, as long as you tell the truth, you will benefit a lot. Benefits? Fatso sneered. While putting on his clothes he muttered, if I lose my life, no matter how many benefits there are, it's useless. Qin Feiyong was surprised. This Fatso's brain did not seem to be simple. He smiled without batting an eyelid. Don't worry, no one will harm you. After Fatso put on his clothes, he tidied up his hair and asked very narcissistically, Zhang Haoyan, is Fat Lord handsome? Handsome. Qin Feiyong nodded. Fatty chuckled. Lord Fatty knew it. Being fat doesn't necessarily mean that you're ugly. However, although Fat Lord is handsome, he is not stupid. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong pretended to be confused. Although Fat Lord's interpersonal relationships in the Pill Palace are not bad, he is still a second-rate character. So no matter if it's you, Qi Jijin, or that bitch Lu Hong, I can't afford to offend any of them. But this time, Fat Lord will definitely offend one of them, and he will definitely have a hard time in the future. Fatso sighed and said worriedly, ah. Qin Feiyong was surprised. He did not expect this Fatso to be so insightful. He was sure that many people in the Pill Palace were confused by this Fatso's appearance. He looked stupid on the outside, but he was actually a very smart guy. Don't worry with me here, they won't dare to do anything to you. Qin Feiyong patted his shoulder, and found out that Fatso's clothes were soaked with sweat. He was a bit nervous. He comforted. Don't be nervous, I am here. It's a tragedy to have you here. The wind is blowing, the water is cold. The hero will never return. Let's go, we can't escape anyway. Today, Fat Lord will sacrifice his life for a righteous cause. Fatso rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyong, and walked towards the small path with a solemn expression. Qin Feiyong's face twitched. Wasn't it just going to be a witness? Was there a need to be so pessimistic? What a weirdo. In the east, in a secluded corner, 3 courtyards stood side by side. In the courtyard, flowers were blooming, and the trees were verdant, full of spring. Here, it was the residence of Luo Xiong, Fengcheng, and Elder Mo. However, there were no lights in the 3 courtyards, and it was pitch black, showing that the 3 of them were resting. Guba carried Jijin and came to the courtyard in the middle, and said loudly, Palace Master, Guba requests to see you. What's the matter? After a while, Luo Xiong's voice came from the pavilion. Guba said, Zhang Haoyan seriously injured Jijin, Lu Hong, Ling Yan. Please interrogate him personally. There was no response from the pavilion, but after a few breaths, the lights in the 3 courtyards were lit. Luo Xiong, Fengcheng, and Elder Mo pushed open the door at almost the same time, put on their coats and walked out. Looking at Jijin's miserable state, Fengcheng looked at Guba and frowned. What happened to cause such a big commotion? Guba shook his head. I'm not sure about the specific situation, but it seems to have something to do with Zhang Haoyan's furnace explosion. Palace Master, 2 elders, it was Zhang Haoyan who exploded his furnace while refining pills, but in the end he blamed it on us and even broke my 2 arms and 1 leg. Please uphold justice for this disciple. Jijin had an aggrieved face, crying to the 3 of them. This time, He Wu also carried Ling Yan, pulled Lu Hong, and ran over in large strides. Lu Hong directly knelt on the ground, bowed and said, Palace Master and Elder, please uphold justice for me. After He Wu put down Ling Yan also lay on the ground, clutching his stomach and said with snot and tears, Palace Master, that Zhang Haoyan is really too much. Not only did he injure us, he even tried to kill us. Palace Master, please punish him severely. What the hell is this kid doing? Elder Feng muttered, feeling rather angry in his heart. Elder Mo raised his eyebrows and asked, Why were you in Zhang Haoyan's pill refining room at that time? Ling Yan said aggrievedly, We saw that it was his first time refining pills, so we took the initiative to go, wanting to give him some pointers. We had good intentions, but who would have thought that after the furnace exploded, he would actually vent his anger on us? This is too much. Luo Xiong and the other 2 looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. Continue pretending, I'll see how long you can pretend. At this moment, Qin Feiyong walked over slowly, his eyes full of ridicule. But Situ Qianyu, who was behind him, became even more nervous than before when he saw that the three big shots were all present. Chapter 75. Qin Feiyong dragged Fatso in front of the three giants. Seeing that Fatso followed, Ji Jin's expression changed slightly and he said in a deep voice, Fatso, what are you doing here? Does this have anything to do with you? There was a hint of threat in his eyes. Originally, the fatty was still quite nervous, but when he saw Ji Jin's unreasonable attitude, he immediately became annoyed and said, could it be that you don't know that Lord Fatty has a hobby, which is to fight for justice? Ji Jin's gaze darkened. Beside him, Ling Yan and Lu Hong looked at Ji Jin with suspicious eyes. Qin Feiyong swept his gaze across the three of them and sneered, Fat Lord, let's cut the crap and get down to business. All right. Fatso chuckled and rolled up his sleeves as if he was ready to go all out. Cough. Feng Cheng coughed and said, if anyone dares to make a move in front of me, don't let me break your bones. Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly put down his sleeves. He smiled obsequiously and said, Elder Feng, this is just a habit. I'm not going to make a move. Please don't misunderstand. Feng Cheng said with a dark face, cut the crap and spit it out. All right. Fatso nodded repeatedly and told him everything that he had heard previously. How did Fatso know? Ling Yan's expression changed drastically as he turned to look at Ji Jin and asked silently. However, Ji Jin's heart was extremely bitter at this moment. This time, not only did he offend Zhang Haotian, he also offended Cheng Yi. Sigh. Why was his life so tough? At this moment, Fatso was almost done. He looked at Luo Xiong and the other two and said, that's what happened. In other words, the three of them were used by Cheng Yi. Feng Cheng asked, then what's with the explosion? Fatso shook his head and said, I don't know about that. You have to ask Zhang Haotian. At that time I was fusing with the spirit liquid and it was the most critical moment. However, Ling Yan suddenly roared that his stomach hurt. Everyone knows that this is my first time refining pills. How can I withstand such interference? The pill furnace exploded, and a piece of it entered my chest. It's still here, only an inch away from my heart. Qin Feiyong pointed at his chest and said in a deep voice. The three magnates looked at Qin Feiyong's chest and their expressions changed. Why didn't you take it out first? If you were careless and went in another inch during the fight just now, would you have lost your life? Feng Cheng hurried over to Qin Feiyong. While cursing, he gently pulled out the shard. Qin Feiyong said, if we take it, the evidence will be gone. You silly boy. Even if there's no evidence, there's still a wound. Besides, we're not fools. Can't we see that? You don't cherish your life at all. You're a bastard among bastards. Feng Cheng was so angry that he cursed loudly. If he died, wouldn't a monster in the alchemy world be gone? Qin Feiyong was quite touched. However, if he didn't have full confidence, he wouldn't have left the shard in his chest. After taking out the shard, Feng Cheng took out a healing pill from his Qinkuan bag and directly stuffed it into Qin Feiyong's mouth without caring about anything else. Then he took the shard and turned to look at Ling Yan and the other two. His face was as dark as water. Do you know what you're doing? I'll tell you clearly. If Zhang Haotian is killed by you today, even if the three of you and Cheng Yi are added together, it won't be enough to pay for it. Feng Cheng roared, his hair standing on end. From the looks of it, he could kill the three of them at any time. Ling Yan and the other two trembled violently and their faces turned pale. Beside him, the fatty's eyes lit up. It seemed that this Zhang Haotian was not just valued in an ordinary way. He was very, very valued. This also meant that their choice was right. If they chose to help Ling Yan and the other two, they would definitely anger this person. The consequences would be unimaginable. Hall Master. The four of them must be severely punished. Elder Mo suddenly spoke. Ling Yan and the other two indeed need to be severely punished. However, Zhang Haotian is the victim and he almost lost his life. You still want to punish him severely. Old dog Mo, do you still have a conscience? Feng Cheng blew his beard and glared, scolding continuously. Elder Mo's face darkened. He took a step forward and shouted into Feng Cheng's ears, I'm talking about Cheng Yi, not Zhang Haotian. Can't you tell? Are you a pig? Feng Cheng was stunned. Sorry, I misunderstood you. I apologize. Immediately after. He rubbed his ears and smiled apologetically to Elder Mo. Humph. Elder Mo snorted coldly. Seeing that Luo Xiong was still deep in thought, he said, how about this? From today onwards, let the four of them go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month. Also, take away their alchemy room. What? Pig cage? Ling Yan and the other two were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Fatso was also dumbfounded. Luo Xiong glanced at Ling Yan and the other two and frowned. Old Mo, I agree with taking away their alchemy room, but to let them go to the pig cage, isn't it a little too? Elder Mo said, it has to be like this. Let them remember. Feng Cheng said. This old man also agrees. Looking at the two of them, Luo Xiong shook his head helplessly and said, up to you. Zhang Haoyan, you will use alchemy room number 4 from now on. That? What's your name? Luo Chong looked at Fatso. Fatso hurriedly said, Hall Master, disciple is Situ Tianyu. Situ Tianyu? Luo Xiong was slightly stunned. The name was quite imposing, but this person, his appearance, was really indescribable. You will use Lu Hong's alchemy room from now on. Luo Xiong said. Thank you, Hall Master. Fatso was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. Luo Xiong nodded, looked at Feng Cheng and Elder Mo, and said, I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go rest first. With that, he turned and walked into the courtyard. Hall Master, wait a moment. Qin Feiyong suddenly said. Is there anything else? Luo Xiong turned and looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong asked, does the big hunting competition still count? Why do you ask? Luo Xiong didn't understand. Qin Feiyong said, because I'll definitely get first place. I'm still waiting to receive the prize. You're that confident? Luo Xiong was instantly interested and said, come. Show me all the beasts you killed in the Black Bear Mountain. If you can surpass the number of beasts you killed last year, I'll personally give you 1,000,000 gold coins. Qin Feiyong was overjoyed and asked, you'll keep your word? Luo Xiong said unhappily, aren't you talking nonsense? I'm the Pill Hall Master. How can I go back on my word? Qin Feiyong said. Then let me ask you clearly. How many beasts did the first place last year kill? Luo Xiong recalled carefully and said, I think it was more than 100. They were all martial master level beasts. So many. But I'm not talking about quantity, only quality. Qin Feiyong smiled confidently. He waved his hand, and the corpses of 5 beasts appeared in front of everyone. Luo Xiong glanced at them, and his pupils instantly contracted. They were actually martial ancestor-level beasts. How much ability did this kid have? Was it something that no one knew? Feng Cheng and He Wu were also very surprised. Suddenly, the three of them looked at each other, turned around at the same time, and walked into their own courtyards. Sai Hall Master, where's the 1,000,000 gold coins? Qin Feiyong said hurriedly. When did I say I'll give you a prize? The Hall Master said expressionlessly. Then, he closed the courtyard's door with a bang. Shameless? Qin Feiyong was stunned, and he looked at Feng Cheng and Elder Mo. Bang. The two of them didn't say anything and closed the courtyard's door. Guba, He Wu, Elder Mo and I are tired. We want to rest early. You guys can handle Chengyi and the others. Feng Cheng's voice came from behind the door. Yes. Guba and He Wu bowed and replied. The veins on Qin Feiyong's forehead jumped violently, and he said angrily, not only did you guys go back on your words, but the three of you also went back on your words. Can't you act like a senior? Luo Xiong and the other two hid behind the door and didn't say anything, looking embarrassed. This time it was really embarrassing. They really couldn't figure out how this kid hunted those 5 beasts. Guba walked to Qin Feiyong, cupped his hands and said, I'm really sorry for blaming you just now. It's okay. Qin Feiyong smiled. Guba said, then you have to recuperate well and work hard to refine pills. Don't let down the Hall Master and the 2 elders. I will. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He Wu, take them. Let's go. Guba carried Jijin and turned to leave. He Wu also held Ling Yan and Lu Hong, nodded to Qin Feiyong in a friendly manner, and quickly followed. They're finally gone. Fatso let out a long sigh. He looked relaxed on the surface, but he was actually very nervous in his heart. Let's go too, Qin Feiyong said to Fatso. He kept the corpses of the 5 beasts and didn't continue to pester them. After all, the 3 of them had helped him a lot. The fatty hurriedly followed him and chuckled. The dignified pill hall's hall master actually doesn't keep his word. If this were to spread out, I wonder how many people would laugh their heads off. Qin Feiyong said, I'm warning you, you better not talk nonsense. Don't worry, Fat Lord still knows what to do. Fatso couldn't stop laughing. It was very wretched, and it made people want to slap him. What's a pig cage? Qin Feiyong asked in a low voice. Mentioning this, Fatso laughed until his whole body shook. He said, a pig cage is a place to raise pigs. The Pill Palace raises pigs? Qin Feiyong was astonished. Fatso said yes, but they're not raised for food. They're used to punish disciples. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but laugh. Changyi and the other 3 were all proud people. Letting them stay in a pig cage for a whole month was more painful than killing them. Of course, he also felt relieved. Fatso said sneakily, the pig cage is in a corner of the Pill Fire Palace. Do you want to go and take a look? Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, not now. I'll go and concoct pills first. What's the rush? It's not too late to concoct pills after taking a look. Let's go. Don't you want to see Changyi's expression when he enters the pig cage? Fatso dragged him and laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyong struggled and shook his head. I'm really not going. Because they don't deserve me to waste more time on them. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Just tell me when you come back. Fatso said uninterestedly, you're really a busy person. Alright, I'll go by myself. I'll find you in the alchemy room later. Qin Feiyong nodded. Fatso dragged his fat body and quickly disappeared into the night. I hope you can remember this. Otherwise, it won't be so simple next time. Chapter 76. Pill Fire Palace. Qin Feiyong walked into alchemy room number 4. Looking around, it was about the same size as the other alchemy rooms. However, the quality of the cauldron was obviously better than the one that exploded. There were many bottles and herbs on the stone table. Naturally, they were left behind by Changyi. Qin Feiyong took off his tattered clothes, wrapped everything up and threw it outside the door. Then, he closed the stone door of the alchemy room and looked at the potential mark on his chest. If they know that I have broken the martial artist limit, I wonder how they will react. He muttered to himself. He took out a clean linen shirt and put it on. Then he took out a set of herbs for the healing elixir and began to refine it. The first herb was 30% mature. The second herb was 40% mature. The third herb was still 40% mature. The fourth herb was 50% mature. With his previous experience, he was able to quickly refine the spiritual liquid of the 8 types of medicinal herbs. The entire process was extremely easy. He did not use much mental strength either. It seems that the alchemy fire is the most important thing in refining elixirs. Qin Feiyong mumbled. Although experience was also important, the alchemy fire was the most important factor. A high-quality alchemy fire could not only save mental strength, but also increase the speed of refining elixirs. It's time to fuse again. I must succeed this time. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath. He was fully focused. He controlled the 8 drops of spirit liquids with his mental strength and gradually drew them together. After a while, the 8 drops of spirit liquids finally met. Qin Feiyong's heart was as calm as still water. His movements were gentle and they slowly fused together. Whoosh! Rays of light shot out from the alchemy furnace and illuminated the entire alchemy room. It was beautiful. Soon, the 8 drops of spirit liquids mixed together and formed a drop of spirit liquid the size of a finger. Oh no! Qin Feiyong forgot one thing. That was to refine the solidifying liquid first. The solidifying liquid could solidify the spirit liquids and turn them from a liquid state to a solid state. It also had the effect of waterproofing, setting fire and preventing the medicinal properties from volatilizing. Of course, if it was soaked in water for a long time or burned for a long time, it would still dissipate and burn. Zhang Haoyan, may I come in? But at this moment, Feng Cheng's voice sounded like a timely rain outside the door. Sure. Qin Feiyong said hurriedly. Feng Cheng pushed open the door and entered. After closing the stone door, he saw Qin Feiyong refining pills. He smiled and asked, "How is it?" Qin Feiyong said, "Elder Feng, give me a drop of solidifying fluid first." "What?" Feng Cheng was stunned. He walked to the front of the cauldron and his face twitched. He was speechless. "You don't have any solidifying liquid and you're already refining pills. You're really something." As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle. Inside there was a transparent liquid that took up more than half of the bottle. One could even faintly see a hazy luster. This was the solidifying fluid. Feng Cheng poured out a drop. Qin Feiyong quickly split a wisp of spiritual force, wrapped the drop of solidifying liquid, put it into the pill furnace, and carefully integrated it into the drop of spiritual liquid. Immediately, the drop of spiritual liquid began to solidify. Not long after, the spiritual liquid was completely solidified. The multicolored light converged, revealing a bright medicinal pill. At the same time, a strong medicinal fragrance wafted out. "It's a success. This is the first medicinal pill I've refined in my life." Staring at the healing pill floating in the pill furnace, Qin Feiyong was quite excited. After the medicinal pill is formed, it can't continue to be placed in the pill furnace because the temperature inside the pill furnace is very high. Even with the protection of the solidifying fluid, the medicinal properties will gradually evaporate. Feng Cheng reminded. Qin Feiyong quivered. With a thought, his spiritual force wrapped around the healing pill and flew out of the pill furnace like a divine rainbow. He grabbed it. The medicinal pill was a little hot. Opening his palm, the healing pill lay quietly in his palm. It was the size of a pellet. Looking carefully, one couldn't find the slightest flaw. "Ah!" Feng Cheng was surprised. He grabbed the medicinal pill in his hand and looked at it carefully. Level 9 spiritual force is indeed extraordinary. A moment later, he couldn't help but exclaim, "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong didn't understand. Feng Cheng said this healing pill, whether in color or quality, can be regarded as the best. It's preliminarily concluded that the medicinal effect is at least 2 or 3 times that of the ordinary healing pill. Qin Feiyong rubbed his head and was a little embarrassed by the praise. "No," Feng Cheng suddenly exclaimed again, which startled Qin Feiyong. "Old man, can you not be so surprised? What's the problem? Can't you just say it?" Qin Feiyong looked at him helplessly, but Feng Cheng turned a deaf ear. His eyes were fixed on a certain part of the healing pill. Feng Cheng suddenly placed the pill in front of Qin Feiyong and said, "Brat, quickly take a look. Is there a pattern here?" Qin Feiyong glanced at it and shook his head. "No." Feng Cheng said, "Look carefully." "Oh." Qin Feiyong responded, looked at Feng Cheng suspiciously, and looked carefully again. Suddenly, his eyes were full of surprise. He really found a circle of pale white lines on the medicinal pill, but it was very blurry and couldn't be found if he didn't look carefully. Elixir pattern. 2 words came to his mind. Although he had never refined medicinal pills before, he had seen many medicinal pills, so the words elixir pattern were not unfamiliar. Elixir pattern actually had no practical effect, it was just a symbol. But this was a kind of affirmation, because only the best medicinal pills in the true sense would produce elixir pattern. In fact, every medicinal ingredient had a lot of impurities. Although these impurities would be volatilized in the process of refining medicinal ingredients, there would still be some impurities mixed into the spirit liquid, which was difficult to completely eliminate. Impurities would affect the quality of the medicinal pill. The less impurities, the higher the quality and the better the medicinal effect. As for this medicinal pill, there were actually a few distracting thoughts because the elixir pattern was not obvious. For a medicinal pill without impurities, the elixir pattern was not only obvious but also glowed, which was very eye-catching. Of course, it belonged to the best medicinal pill, no one could deny it. Qin Feiyong was extremely excited. He didn't expect it. The first time he refined a pill, he produced elixir pattern. It seemed that he was quite talented in the path of alchemy. Haha, this old man has been refining pills for decades, and I have never refined a best medicinal pill. Now I actually let you, this kid, refine it. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Feng Cheng laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyong's shoulder, feeling gratified. Qin Feiyong laughed dryly, feeling a little uncomfortable. But you can't be complacent. Being able to refine a best medicinal pill on your first try is not because you are very powerful, but because of your mental strength. If you don't have level 9 mental strength, I'm afraid that the medicinal pill you refined will be worse than ordinary medicinal pills. Of course, your talent in alchemy can't be denied. Feng Cheng laughed. This disciple will continue to work hard. Qin Feiyong said. Feng Cheng nodded and said with a sneaky smile, this old man will give you this bottle of solidifying liquid. But this old man will take away this medicinal pill. When the hall master and old man Mo see it, they will definitely be shocked. Thank you, Elder Feng. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and thanked him. The solidifying liquid required 10 kinds of medicinal herbs, and it was very troublesome to refine. And this bottle of solidifying liquid had at least a few hundred drops, which saved him a lot of time. Qin Feiyong asked, Right, why are you always looking for me? Feng Cheng laughed. It's nothing much, I just came to see how you are refining, and if you need any pointers, but now it seems that you don't need it, so this old man won't disturb you. Good luck. Qin Feiyong nodded. Feng Cheng turned and left. Qin Feiyong took out the bone continuing pill formula, read it carefully, and began to refine the bone continuing pill. At the same time, Chengyi was sleeping soundly. There was still a smile on his face, as if he was having a good dream. Zhang Haoyan, you dare to go against me, I'll kill you, I'll trample you to death suddenly. He mumbled. He actually dreamed of Qin Feiyong in his dreams. How deep was this hatred? Bam! Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and Gu Ba and He Wu strode in. Who is it? Chengyi was also awakened. He suddenly turned over and climbed up, looking at the door warily. Gu Ba blew on the fire and lit the candle. Chengyi was slightly taken aback and asked, Two elders, why are you here so late at night? Follow us. Gu Ba said. Where to? Chengyi was puzzled. Pig cage. Gu Ba said. What are you going to do in the pig cage? Chengyi was even more puzzled. The palace master has ordered you to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month. Gu Ba said. Impossible. Changyi suddenly shouted, hurriedly got out of bed, put on his clothes and said, I want to see the palace master. I want to ask clearly, what did I do wrong, to want me to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a whole month? Don't go, because the palace master doesn't want to see you now. After Gu Ba finished speaking, he looked at He Wu. The two stepped forward, ignoring Changyi's resistance and roar. One on the left and one on the right, forcibly dragged him out of the room, and walked quickly in the direction of the pig cage. It must be Zhang Haoyan, I swear, I'm not done with you. Changyi's roar resounded in the night, and it did not calm down for a long time. Time flew. The horizon gradually began to turn white. Phew! Qin Feiyong let out a long breath, turned off the alchemy fire, and looked at the 20 elixirs on the stone table. The excitement in his eyes could not be concealed. They were 5 healing elixirs, 5 bone replenishing elixirs, 5 body tempering elixirs, and 5 chi gathering elixirs. This was the result of his night's work. Although the number was small, there was a circle of elixir pattern on each elixir. The only regret was that no matter how he refined, the elixir pattern could not be clearer, more obvious, and still so vague. Qin Feiyong guessed that it should be the problem of the alchemy fire in the alchemy furnace. However, after a night of refining elixirs, his spirit was still very strong, and there was no sign of exhaustion at all. This was another big advantage of a level 9 mental power. Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord is back, are you in? At this moment, Fatso's voice came from outside the door. Boss? Qin Feiyong was stunned, and shook his head with a smile. Come in. Fatso pushed open the stone door, and he was hale and hearty, in high spirits, and laughed. Are you used to the alchemy room number 4? It's okay. Qin Feiyong smiled and stretched out his hand. Give me a jade box. Fatso took out a palm-sized jade box and handed it to Qin Feiyong. He grabbed the 5 elixirs and said, Let Fat Lord take a look at the elixirs you refined. Seeing Fatso seriously scrutinizing the elixirs, to be honest, he was not used to it. Chapter 77. The value of a top-grade pill couldn't be compared to an ordinary pill. If these 20 pills were to be auctioned, they would definitely be sold for a good price. However, Fatso wasn't happy. He said angrily, "For you, I almost offended all the geniuses in the pill palace. You actually used 20 pills to fool me. Do you have a conscience?" Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He said, "Take a look first. When you go out later, close the door." After saying that, he walked out of the alchemy room and went to find Luo Xiong. No matter how you look at it, it's just an ordinary pill. How can it become a divine pill? Fatso muttered in disdain. However, after he took a closer look, his eyeballs almost popped out. There were actually pill patterns. He hurriedly checked them one by one. He found that there were pill patterns on every pill. This guy, is he still human? Fatso froze on the spot and muttered to himself. Following that, he shuddered and hurriedly kept the 20 pills. He closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyang. After catching up, he licked his face full of admiration and flattery. He said, "Zhang Laoda, you're too awesome. You created pill patterns on your first try. I really admire you. Can you accept me as your follower?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and laughed. Fatso said anxiously, "Don't laugh. I'm serious." Qin Feiyang laughed, "Sure, as long as you don't regret it in the future." "I won't regret it." Fatso patted his chest and said confidently. At this moment, most of the disciples had already woken up. They also knew that Changyi and the other 3 were beaten into the pig cage. This explosive news made the morning of the Pill Palace bustle with excitement. "Look, it's Zhang Haotian. I heard that Changyi and the other 3 were beaten into the pig cage. It's related to him. Let's go and ask." When the disciples saw Qin Feiyang, they rushed forward. "Fat Lord, it's up to you now." Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good. He said something to Fatso, then used the shifting smoke steps, broke through the layers of encirclement, and quickly disappeared. Everyone stopped chasing. Fat Lord was there last night. As long as you are sincere enough, Fat Lord will tell you everything. Fatso roared with a smirk. Hearing this, the group of disciples immediately surrounded Fatso. At the same time, Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Emo were all in their respective courtyards. They were removing insects and weeding the flower beds while chatting. "Why is it so hot so early in the morning? When will it cool down?" Luo Xiong complained as he stood up and wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Soon. It will be autumn in a month." Feng Cheng smiled. "I really hope it will come soon." Luo Xiong shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, he noticed Qin Feiyang rushing over from afar, and immediately laughed out loud, saying, "Our genius is here." Elder Feng stood up and looked over, his face full of smiles. Even Elder Emo, who was usually reserved, was smiling from ear to ear. "Greetings, Hall Master." "Greetings, Elder Feng, Elder Emo." Qin Feiyang stopped in front of Luo Xiong's courtyard and cupped his hands. Elder Feng chuckled. "Running here so early in the morning, do you have any good news to tell us?" "How can there be so many good news?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. "Hall Master, this disciple is here to look for you. This disciple would like to borrow the number 1 alchemy room." "Why?" Luo Xiong asked. Qin Feiyang said, "I want to try and see if I can go further." The 3 of them looked at each other. Others would never be able to refine a top-grade pill in their entire lives, but this kid had refined it on his first try, and he was still not satisfied? But this was a good thing. Proved that this kid was ambitious. He deserved praise. He deserved more support. Mind power, talent, alchemy fire, alchemy furnace, these are indeed the necessary conditions to refine a good pill. Alright, you can use the number 1 alchemy room. I rarely refine pills anyway. Luo Xiong smiled. "Thank you, Hallmaster." "Hallmaster, Elder Feng, Elder Emo, goodbye." Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He hurriedly said goodbye and ran back to the Pill Fire Hall. What an impatient little fellow. Elder Emo shook his head and smiled. He turned to look at Luo Xiong and said, "Hallmaster, I'm afraid the one and only reserved spot in the Danwang Hall will belong to this kid, right?" "Haha, do you even need to say that?" Before the Hallmaster could speak, Feng Cheng laughed first. When Qin Feiyang returned to the Pill Fire Hall, he told Guba and Elder Emo about the situation. Hearing about it, both of them were shocked. One must know. The number 1 alchemy room was the hallmaster's personal alchemy room. In the past, the hallmaster would not allow the pill hall's disciples to go in and take a look. They did not expect that this kid could use it as he wished. The difference in treatment was like heaven and earth. Since the hallmaster had personally agreed, they naturally did not dare to say anything. Qin Feiyong entered the number 1 alchemy room as he wished. Its size was not much different from the other alchemy rooms. However, that alchemy furnace was the best in the entire pill hall. It even glowed with treasure light. Clang! Qin Feiyong stretched out his hand and flicked the alchemy furnace. The sound was as smooth as a pearl and there was no noise at all. He pressed the button again and opened the black hole. Buzz! Alchemy fire quickly appeared and burned like blood. Phew! Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and began to refine healing pills. At the same time, because of this there was an uproar outside. Not only did he trick Chang'e and the other 3 into the pig cage, he also obtained the right to use the number 1 alchemy room. What was the background of this Jiang Haotian? Fatso also became the target of everyone's flattery. When Fatso brought the 20 elixirs into the treasure pavilion, there was a huge uproar. The pill hall had produced supreme-grade elixirs. This news was like a plague, spreading unstoppably in the Black Bear City. All the family heads, martial arts hall masters, and even the city lord were alarmed and swarmed towards the treasure pavilion. For a moment, Fatso became the most popular person in the city. Everyone was looking for him to find out where the supreme-grade elixirs came from. However, although Fatso liked to act cool and was greedy for small gains, without Qin Feiyong's permission, he did not dare to say it out. In the end, the 20 elixirs were auctioned for a total of 20,000 gold coins. They landed in the hands of the 3 family heads, city lord and martial arts hall master. They were auctioned for a sky-high price. One must know, the market price of a single qi gathering pill was only 2 gold coins. Not to mention the body tempering pill, healing pill and bone replenishing pill. If it was an ordinary one, 20 of them were not even worth 10 gold coins. Compared to 20,000 gold coins, how much was the difference? Actually, even supreme-grade elixirs were not that valuable. After all, they were only low-grade elixirs. It was because this was the first time a supreme-grade elixir appeared in the Black Bear City. That was why everyone was fighting for it. Another main reason was vanity. Having a few supreme-grade elixirs at home was not only a source of pride, but also a symbol of identity and status. Hee. I didn't expect that Fat Lord would have such a day. Fatso made a huge profit and happily returned to the pill hall. Luoxiong, even if he did not say anything, it did not mean that this matter was over. Anyone with a little bit of status in the Black Bear City went to the pill hall to visit Luoxiong. First, Luoxiong was still a little confused. However, when he heard the truth from those people, he was instantly furious. This damn Fatso was really asking for a beating. However, he did not tell the truth. He said that he only knew about it now. He would tell everyone after he found out the truth. It took him a lot of effort to get rid of those people. However, the City Lord, Martial Arts Hall Master, Precious Treasure Pavilion Master, Battle King Lin Liang of the Yen City's Lin family also came personally. Not only Luoxiong, even Fengchang and Elder Emo were annoyed and avoided them. The City Lord and the others waited for a while before tactfully leaving. However, they did not give up and tried their best to find out more. At the same time, the disciples of the pill hall were also discussing and guessing. They thought of Qin Feiyong, but immediately rejected it. Actually, they could not be blamed. After all, Qin Feiyong had just started refining elixirs. How could he make supreme-grade elixirs? The one who started the trouble should end it. They also targeted Fatso. However, ever since Fatso returned to the pill hall, it was as if he had disappeared from the world. They searched every corner of the pill hall but could not find him. Under Luoxiong's courtyard, there was an airtight cellar. At the left corner of the cellar there was a chair. The fat man was tied to a chair with his hands tied behind his back. Moreover, his whole body was covered with blood. His face was purple and red, and his eyes were swollen. Right now he was no different from a pig head. Luoxiong, Fengchang, and Elder Emo stood side by side in front of him. Their faces were filled with anger. That's right. Fatso was kidnapped by the 3 of them. Moreover, Elder Emo did it personally. They also saw the result. He was beaten black and blue by Feng Cheng. However, Fatso was very sullen. Jiang Haoyan gave the elixirs to him. It was his private property. He had the right to control it. Why did he have to be beaten? Wasn't this too much? What was worse was that not only was he beaten up, the 20,000 gold coins he got from the auction was also robbed by the 3 leaders. You are the leaders of the pill hall, not bandits. How could you do such a thing? How unseemly was that? Fatso felt that he was even more wrong than Do Yi. Luo Xiong asked Fatso, do you know your mistake? What did I do wrong? Fatso asked back. This is too much. Even if you are the leaders, Fat Lord will not compromise today. Luo Xiong said, stubborn. Old Mo, send him to the pig cage immediately. Lock him up for 1.5 years. Ah, pig cage. 1.5 years. Fatso's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shouted, Hall Master, I know my mistake. I will definitely change. I am sincerely regretful. I am willing to accept any punishment, except for the pig cage. The 3 leaders looked at each other. A smile appeared in their eyes. The hall master's face darkened. He said, when you go out later, if someone asks you, just say that you picked up the elixirs. Do you understand? I understand. Fatso nodded. Feng Cheng said, then if someone asks about your injuries, do you know what to say? Fatso nodded, I know. I will say that I accidentally fell and bumped into something. Yes. Feng Cheng nodded and said, at least you know your place. This will be a lesson for you. I hope you can remember and keep a low profile in the future. The pig cage will be prepared for you at any time. Chapter 78. Fatso had completely lost his temper under the threat of the 3 giants. Once he was untied, he ran out of the cellar as if he was running for his life. On the way to the Pill Fire Hall, the disciples of the Pill Fire Hall kept coming and surrounded him. If you want to know the truth, don't block my way. Follow Fat Lord to the Pill Fire Hall. Fatso said. When they arrived at the Pill Fire Hall, everyone couldn't wait to urge Fatso to speak quickly. The elixir was picked up and the injury was caused by a collision. This is the truth. If you know, then go back to your own homes and find your own mothers. Don't bother me anymore. Fatty first pushed open the door and ran in. Then, without even turning his head, he quickly slipped into the alchemy room and closed the stone door tightly. Picked up? Who would believe that? Fatso, open the door. If you don't open it, we'll break the door. A group of disciples also ran into the Pill Fire Hall and blocked the door of Fatso's alchemy room and shouted, Fat Lord isn't your father. Why are you pestering him? Get lost. Fatso scolded angrily. Were they all blind? Couldn't they see that he had his difficulties? However, Fatso's words made the disciples even angrier. What are you all doing? Don't you all have anything to do? Get lost right now or you'll all be locked in the pig cage. In the end, it was Guba and Hiwu who ran in and shouted with a sullen face that ended the disturbance. In fact, they were also puzzled. But as deacon elders, they saw and thought of more things than the disciples. So they chose to remain silent and pretend that nothing had happened. 2 days later, before the Supreme Great Elixir incident was over, another incident was spreading like wildfire. Because today was the day of the battle between Ling Yunfei and Ling Sheng. Early in the morning, everyone rushed out of the city, hoping to get a good spot. The East City Gate was already bustling with noise and excitement. By the time the sun rose, the place was already packed with people. In a certain dense forest deep within the Black Bear Mountain, there was a huge ferocious beast. Its entire body was pitch black, and its hair was as hard as steel needles. Its millstone-sized eyes were emitting a frightening and ominous light. It was the Black Bear King. Beside him stood a demonic young man whose body was riddled with scars. Some of the blood had already coagulated. Some of the blood had just flowed out. He was Ling Yunfei, but at this moment he was covered in blood, and his entire body was filled with the pungent smell of blood. There was another person lying in front of the man and the beast. It was Butler Ling, but now he had become a corpse. He was killed by the Black Bear King. Ling Yunfei lowered his head and stared at Steward Ling. His eyebrows were full of surprise. A moment later, He raised his head and looked into the Black Bear King's eyes. He asked in confusion, Senior Bear King, I have no relation to you. Why are you helping me? The Black Bear King said indifferently, I'm only helping you because of them. Them? Ling Yunfei was stunned and asked, Who are they? The Black Bear King said, Don't worry about that and don't ask too much. Hurry back or you'll be late. Shit! Ling Yunfei slapped his head and said hurriedly, Senior Bear King, can you help me again? This place is dozens of kilometers away from Black Bear City. Even if I don't eat or drink, it'll take me half a day to get there. I won't make it in time. The Black Bear King was silent for a moment before nodding. All right, I'll help you one more time. Come onto my shoulder. Ling Yunfei bent down and hugged Steward Ling's corpse. With a powerful leap, he landed on the Black Bear King's shoulder. Bang! 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 The Black Bear King strode forward and disappeared into the vast mountains with a series of loud sounds. Roar! Roar! At the same time, there was a canyon not far away. In the depths of the canyon, the Wolf King and the Black Bear Cub were playing happily. Hillfire Hall. Qin Feiyong also opened the stone door of Alchemy Room 1 and strode out. Zhang Laoda, you're finally willing to come out. Do you know how Fat Lord endured the past few days? Even saying that he was better off dead is not enough to describe it. As soon as he appeared, Fatso's cries reached his ears. Is it that bad? Qin Feiyong was stunned. After closing the stone door, he looked at Fatso. He saw Fatso standing at the door of Alchemy Room 5 and looking at him pitifully. He looked very haggard. His spirit was also very weak. But there was a trace of vigilance in his eyes as he looked behind him. Qin Feiyong turned his head and looked behind him. There was no one. Puzzled, he asked, How did you become like this? Isn't it all your fault? Fatso felt so wrong that tears were about to fall out. Me? Qin Feiyong was stunned and said with a faint smile, What's the matter? Wait for me to come back. With that, he turned and walked towards the door. Don't, Fat Lord will go with you. Fatso hurriedly closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyong. You're out. How's the result? After the door opened, Gu Ba and He Wu saw Qin Feiyong and asked with a smile. Not bad. Qin Feiyong nodded. Hearing this ambiguous answer, Gu Ba and He Wu didn't probe further. He Wu said with a smile, The temple master asked us to tell you to go find him first and then go out of the city together. Thank you. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands in thanks and strode away. Find the temple master? Should Fat Lord go? Or not? Fatso hesitated for a while, but finally gritted his teeth and followed. Zhang Laoda, you don't know how unlucky Fat Lord is. Not only did I not get any gold coins, I was also beaten up. Even these 2 days, I hid in the alchemy room and didn't dare to come out. He complained to Qin Feiyong with snot and tears. Heard. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but be absent-minded. He didn't expect that the 20 elixirs could be auctioned at the sky-high price of 20,000 gold coins. Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord has done so much for you. Shouldn't you also make up for Fat Lord's broken heart? Fatso lowered his head and muttered. This was the real purpose of him coming. Qin Feiyong glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He took out 20 elixirs and said, Take them, you have to be smarter this time. Thank you very much, Zhang Laoda. Fatso's face immediately glowed. He happily received the 10 elixirs and even looked to see if there were any markings on them. The disciples of the Pill Hall also ran to the East City Gate to join in the fun. So on the way, it was considered smooth and unobstructed. In the courtyard, Qin Feiyong stood in front of the gate and cupped his hands. Temple Master, this disciple is here to report. Before he finished his words, Luo Xiong, Fengcheng, and Elder Mo opened the door one after another and walked out. But seeing that Fatso was also there, the 3 of them frowned without leaving a trace. Fengcheng said, Let me see the elixirs refined in these 2 days. Qin Feiyong took out a Qiankuan bag from his chest, took out an elixir, and handed it to Fengcheng. Fengcheng held it in his hand and checked the markings. Although the markings on the elixir were still a little blurry, it was much clearer than the first elixir refined. He could notice it with just a glance. Luo Xiong patted Qin Feiyong's shoulder and said with a smile, You've improved a lot. How many elixirs have you refined? Healing elixir, bone replenishing elixir, body tempering elixir, and qi gathering elixir 50 each. They are all here. Qin Feiyong shook the Qiankuan bag. Actually, there were 220 elixirs. But he couldn't say the 20 that he gave to Fatso, because the three of them would confiscate them. Amazing. I've been in the pill hall for a few months. Now, I can only refine 50 elixirs a day at most. But you've only been here for a few days and you're already so familiar with it. You're really awesome. Fatso gave him a thumbs up and admired him from the bottom of his heart. Fengcheng frowned and said, "Who allowed you to speak? Wasn't the lesson 2 days ago enough?" Fatso's face turned pale. He immediately shut his mouth and kept quiet out of fear. Humph. Fengcheng snorted and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. His face was full of smiles as he asked, "Can you give these elixirs to us? Although we can't give you as high a price as the Zhanbao Pavilion, we won't treat you unfairly." This attitude made Fatso feel that it was unfair. Qin Feiyong looked at the three of them. His eyes flickered. In the end, he smiled faintly and handed the Qiankuan bag to Fengcheng. He also stated that he didn't expect anything in return. He just treated it as a small contribution to the pill hall. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was so sensible, the three leaders were overjoyed and couldn't stop praising him. "Let's go to the East City Gate. I want to see what kind of trouble the Ling family can cause." Luo Xiong waved his hand and strode forward, walking at the front. Fengcheng and Elder Emo followed behind him. "Zhang Laoda, are you stupid? Why did you give the elixirs to them for free?" Fatso asked in a low voice. His face was full of pity. 200 elixirs were all supreme-grade elixirs. They could be sold for at least a few 100,000 gold coins. How stupid was he to give them away for free? Qin Feiyong smiled but didn't say anything. He had to have a long-term view. Although it seemed like he was giving them away for free, it would actually be a great help to him in the future. Because as long as he could gain the favor of the three of them, they would help him even more in the future. Elder Feng suddenly stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. He frowned and said, "That Ling Yunfei, why haven't I seen him these few days? Didn't he come to the pill hall?" "No." Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. "But I believe that he will definitely appear." Fengcheng snorted. "You took such a big risk for him. If he loses today, even if the Ling family doesn't kill him, I will." Immediately after, Luo Xiong said without turning his head, "Don't worry. Even if Ling Yunfei loses, the Ling family won't dare to do anything to you." "Thank you, Palace Master." Qin Feiyong thanked him. If Ling Yunfei really loses, then he would lose the value of nurturing him. East City Gate. At this moment, all the leaders of the Black Bear City, including the Ling family, had arrived. Only the people from the pill hall were left. Why aren't they here yet? Are they afraid? They have already signed the life and death agreement. I'm afraid that they will come. Actually, this Zhang Haoyan is also a talent. But unfortunately, he is short-sighted. He bet his life on that trash Ling Yunfei. This time he is definitely going to die. The group of young disciples from the Ling family were the fiercest. They were full of confidence and looked down on everything in the world. We still don't know who will win. Don't come to a conclusion so early. If we come to a conclusion now and lose, it will be even worse. At this moment, Qin Feiyong and his group arrived. The one who spoke was Qin Feiyong. The crowd automatically parted. Qin Feiyong followed behind the three leaders. His expression was indifferent and his eyes were calm. "Seems like you are very confident." Ling Shang walked out from the crowd and looked at Qin Feiyong mockingly. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have dared to challenge you 3 days ago. I guarantee that you will regret it." Ling Shang raised the corner of his mouth and pursed his lips into a cold smile. "Then let's wait and see," Qin Feiyong said. His tone was still very calm, without the slightest ripple. Such an attitude made Ling Shang very unhappy. "Let's see how long you can pretend to be calm."